I don't know why it says we've been live for an hour and some change, but yeah. I don't know what's up with that timer, but okay. Anyways, if anybody's watching, welcome. So today we have Boosted 14R. We'll be chatting with him about what it takes to build a competitive turbo bike. And as you can see in his garage, well, you can't see his entire garage, but he has several bikes. And I don't know where pointdexter went, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah, see, he got bikes. Yeah, yeah, that's the ZX10 over there, right?
Yeah, it's my wife's ZX10RR.
Yeah, man. One of these days I'm gonna have to race that too, because you know I don't like Kawasaki, but Gixxer is about to get on my nerves, bro. Hey, C3 Performance said you got slow turbo bikes. Look at that, they on you already, bro. But before we get into like the nitty gritty as far as what it takes to build such a massive, nice bike like you got behind you, man, tell a little, the people about yourself a little bit, man.
So, my actual name's Luke, man. I run the Boosted 14 Hour Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel. I got into riding years ago, just riding around in clubs and things like that. And it wasn't until I bought this bike actually that I started getting into racing. Um, Bought this and an H2 both when I was in Afghanistan in 2017 and put the turbo on it immediately. I was looking up tuners, found Chris, and then he tuned up the H2, and we are getting this ready for Texas Mile, but it wasn't ready. So that's how I met Chris and Brett. Was going to Texas Mile 2019 with the H2. So I mean, bone stock H2, just tuned, and it ran 215 after Chris tuned it.
215 in a mile.
Yep, bone stock H2, first time out. Fell in love with that because you don't have to mess with cops and stuff like on the street. That's why I stick to mostly the shift sector and the mile stuff now. So,
well, we're definitely going to get into some shift sector talk, but so you telling me like the H2, even though that's not like the topic of discussion, the H2 was totally stock and it went 215, or was it flash tune, filter, all of that?
Well, what I mean by stock is like it was stock supercharger gears, stock motor. I had the aluminum stacks from Bear Racing in it. It was flashed and tuned with a DNA filter. And I want to say when I did the mile, it was extended. But overall, like is a stock bike. I picked it up for a steal at like 23,000 and tuned it up, put the Brocs and stuff on it, and we went and ran the mile with it. And then I held onto that bike until probably 2020 is when I got rid of it.
Yeah, which is crazy though, because I can remember we were like H2 buddies for a while, and then you just got rid of it.
Yeah, I mean it was a cool bike. Like the H2 is a cool bike to have, but for me it was like watching Chris go through the H2, and we kind of found the limits of it, which I won't get into, but
yeah,
the limit from what I saw wasn't where I wanted to go. I wanted to go bigger and on the turbo. So, I sold that bike, got a cruiser, ended up selling the cruiser. Like I go through bikes like I'm going through freaking, changing underwear every day. Like I've had so many different bikes, it's not even funny.
It's funny you should say that because like when I looked at your garage, I didn't realize your cruiser wasn't there. Like I didn't even see that.
Yeah. So yeah, we sold the cruiser, the Harley. I bought the FX LRS back in 2020, traded my H2 for it. Pissed off a bunch of Harley guys, put Dyna exhaust or 2-into-1 exhaust and a Dyna rear end on it where I had external shocks and stuff like that. And all the Harley guys hated it. But I just didn't ride it much out here because once I got back to Texas, it's so hot here to be riding the Harley. It's like, no, I'm good.
Oh, yeah.
So we sold it. And that's actually how we got the Booster back there, was selling the Harley, freed up some cash, put money down on that one, and picked up the Gen 3.
Man, I tell you, that's the best color they make in a Booster, man, black.
Mm-hmm. The all black, and then it's got the purple on the sides and stuff. And I'm starting to do the same purple Pro Bolt stuff that I did to the 14 on the Booster now too.
Now, are you going to keep that NA, or are you just you're gonna boost that as well?
So I've already talked with somebody about turboing, and I was helping him by getting him measurements and stuff. But basically, I put in for retirement. So now I'm about a year and a half out from retirement. So I was like, I'm going to hold off on turbo and the Busa and just, get my finances right to retire. But it's definitely getting a turbo at some point.
Yeah, man. I know how you are.
hmm
So, I mean, what made
Yep.
you choose the 14 platform versus the Booster as it became like as it pertains to like being boosted in general? Like, because most people like they're gonna buy a Booster, they're not gonna look into a 14 to actually modify because it just costs too much. The aftermarket's not there.
Yeah. So the 14s, this is my third or fourth 14 that I've had. I just liked it better than the Busa. I had a Gen 2 Busa for a while. It actually got stolen, but I always like the 14. My opinion, it's a nicer riding bike, like around town. Now, granted, I've got a seat pan and carbon fiber and stuff, so it's not very comfortable anymore. But that's where it started with the 14. Was basically I thought it was more comfortable, a little more upright, thicker seat, things like that for the street. And then it ended up being the bike that I bought the turbo for because I was just trying to build like a 230, 240 horsepower street bike. And that didn't turn out very well. So
Oh yeah, yeah. You were saying that you ended up blowing it up a little bit.
yeah, it lasted. I took the H2 and the turbo bike down to get tuned, and it ran fine. I don't remember how much it made, but made it through the dyno and all that. I took it out on the street. Had way too much oil in it because everybody in the 14 community is like, "Oh yeah, add more oil. That'll fix the oil problem." It doesn't. Just run normal amounts of oil and put the oil plate on it and fix it correctly. But yeah, I just basically wasn't expecting it to rev as fast as it did. I want to say I probably sat on the rev limiter for 3-4 seconds, and then it ran fine. Got off the highway. I looked down at my fucking shoes, my black Air Forces, and was like, "Oh, I have oil all over my leg." So rode it back to the shop, freaking took it home, and it just basically piston ring scraped up the inner walls of the cylinder. And I mean, it ran fine. I could have kept running it, but I was like, well, we need to rebuild it. So
Right, right. Well, that sucks because I'm sure like, but then that motor was stock, right? It wasn't built at that
yeah, so
time,
that
right?
was that was the bone stock motor. Like that didn't have even the oil mod or anything done. It was literally like bolt the turbo on, and I'm not necessarily a mechanic, so like I bolted the turbo on, put in the starter map on the stock ECU, put the map from RCC into the power commander, and like I wrote it to the gas station, and Chris was like, hey, before I tune it, don't get under boost. You can ride it around, fill it up with gas or whatever, but don't get into boost. Um, and then by the time I got it out to Chris, we looked at it, it wasn't building boost. And like I made a noob mistake of not sealing my exhaust side off. So basically it wasn't going to build any boost because everything was just coming out the exhaust pipe. It wasn't sealed up. So,
Mm.
like every time I bring something to Chris, he's like, what the? And he fixes something that I've neglected to do. I know a lot about bikes, but everything is a learning experience with me. Like, today I went and did a run and found out that my Max ECU is set up to data log for a certain amount of time after you start. So by the time I got out to the spot, I didn't know that because it worked the other day and it got my data. But this time it timed out, so I didn't get data off any of the pull that I did today. I got the data from the
Oh,
ride out and then the data from the ride back. It literally just
oh
skipped
man.
my pull. But yeah, like I constantly make those type of mistakes. Like I know about bikes, I know about mechanics, but I'm by no means an expert. I try to help people where I can with what I know. Um,
Right. Trial and
and
error, right?
yeah, people will be like, "Hey, can you do this?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm not touching the motor." Like, you need a new clutch? I got you. I'll put a clutch in. But you want to start doing head and cam and stuff like, nope, I'm not getting into somebody's motor. Like, I'll
It,
install a power commander, or, I'll wire in some LEDs for you, or, you want a quick shifter or something, an
right.
exhaust, cool. But yeah, I'm not getting into motors. Like, I didn't even get in the motor on this. Chris built the motor on this. He does all the tuning. I don't mess with any of the tuning. I just pull the logs, send them to him. He goes through, analyzes them, and freaking gives me updates, emails me the file back. So,
That's interesting because and who he's talking about is, I think his name is what, Chris Boomstoon on Facebook, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's
And
Boomstoon HQ on Porter.
okay, yeah. He has like, I want to say one or two Facebook pages or something, because I see like his Boomstoon in different ways that he's saying it, but so he handles a lot of the 14 stuff, I've noticed. I mean, he does other bikes too, but then it seems like STPI kind of focuses on the boosters,
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be pretty fair. The little shops are literally right next to each other. They're both good friends of mine and good friends with each other. So, I think they both help each other out with, whatever they need. Like I had the head resurfaced when I blew the motor, and, I took it over. Shane's the one that redid the head, and I had a budget at the time. So he did what work he could on it to help the flow, and things like that. So it's like they kind of work together on certain things, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think they have builds together like teamwork, but it's like, oh, hey, I need this. Shane's got it next door. Go buy it from Shane. Or,
Right.
I needed an O2 bung welded into my dump pipe on this bike. And I was already at the shop, so we had to take it off the bike. I brought it over to Shane and was like, hey, can you weld an O2 bung on here real quick? And, he hooked up all his welding stuff, welded the O2 bung because the sniffer had an issue that day or something. And so them being right next to each other is like perfect. It's a godsend for anything you need. If Chris don't have it, Shane probably does. So
Right. I guess I'm about to ask you a controversial question. And by the way, welcome, Pointdexter. You got your
welcome
drink,
back.
bro. Yeah, man. You got your drink, bro.
I got my drink, man. I got my drink. I'm ready, bro.
Right,
All
we're
right.
30 minutes in, bro.
Come
All right. All right. So here's a controversial question, man. So like, you see within the road race community, there's always a turbo getting their asses kicked by NA bike. And a lot of times they're not even power adder bikes. So why do you think that is?
I mean, depending on the turbo, right? So different size turbo has different spooling point. So this is still stage one RCC turbo. So kind of a mediocre turbo, not too small, not too big. It kicks in hard, but it doesn't kick in nearly as fast as, say a larger turbo. That's going to make more top end power. So, that's kind of what I'm doing right now with this bike, is figuring out where its maximum is for me before I even worry about like switching out turbos and things. But if you have say a turbo Hayabusa, it makes 600 horsepower. It's like, that's great, but that turbo has to spool. So unless you have a max ECU and you can run like a rolling anti-lag or something, like the turbo has to spool. So, an NA bike's going to get the hit and go. Like I raced a Nitrous Gixxer 1000, and for the first 400 feet, he pulled on me. But as soon as the turbo spooled, I put bus links on him before the half.
Oh, okay.
So that video is up on my page. But yeah, I mean, on the street, it depends. Like, here in El Paso, everybody's into the 60 to 130, and it's like 60 to 130 is like one shit. That's not even me. Like, I don't have time to turn the ramp on. I just shifted one gear, and now it's over. So it's like, for me, if you're racing 60 to 130 or 40 to 130 or whatever, like the turbo bike, it just takes longer to get there. My 60 to 130 on this bike, I don't actually know. It's probably pretty slow, but to give you an idea, it shifts into sixth gear at 220 miles an hour. So like its fifth gear is 220. And then sixth gear today, I ran 238.
Shifting into six.
Yeah, so I actually found that out yesterday. I had a boost leak issue, or 2 days ago, excuse me. I had a boost leak issue. Bike did not shift into sixth. And I basically I ran a 220 and was pretty upset. I was like, it's got to do better than that, for what it is. And sent the data log to Chris, and he's like, yeah, you never hit the shift point, which tells me that we only hit, 4 or 5 PSI below target. It wasn't making the right power, so it never shifted into six, and I ran 220. So that's how I know like fifth gear is 220.
Now, could you make that up with changing the gearing at all, or does that just primarily goes off power?
I guess, what do you mean? Like, could it accelerate faster?
Right. Like, so if you change your gearing, would you be able to get into sixth gear faster?
I mean,
Versus
yeah, but like right now, that's geared for like 250, because that's my goal is to go 250.
where? Where are you trying to go?
Anywhere that's 1 mile long. 250 is the goal at Texas Mile, right? So
Okay.
everybody sees Brett's bike, the truth. That
Right.
bike is
Right.
insanely fast. I'm never probably going to be able to get a 14 to that level, but that's what I'm shooting for. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm shooting for that bike that people don't want to race. They back out of because it goes
Hey,
230 plus and a half, 260 plus in a mile. It's just going to take a ton of time. Like that bike wasn't built overnight. And,
right.
Right.
I've got a little less finances being in the military than someone who has their own business where, they can take on extra work or work overtime. Like I was just going
Right.
for a month and I didn't get a dime more than my normal paycheck.
Yeah, we know.
So
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah, most
thank you
definitely,
for
man.
yours too, man.
Hey, I tell you, man. So what is your half mile time then? Mile per hour
Time,
wise, like
I
mile
would
per
say,
hour wise, like what is it?
so mile per hour, I've run 207. That was the last time I ran in Hondo. Um, I basically got two passes. I did a shakedown where I didn't hit any kind of boost ramps or anything. I ran like 198, kind of going easy on it just to see where the tune was, see how the bike was running, feel the track out, the airport in Hondo. And then I made one pass, went 207 against that nitrous Gixxer and blew up my radiator. So,
Ooh.
Blew up the
yeah.
radiator.
So,
Hey,
yeah.
hey,
And
Reaper knows what that's like to blow a radiator on the track.
yeah.
100%.
So, like, I've learned my lesson. I tried to get another guy there with a 14. He was having issues, and I was like, "I'll buy your radiator off you right now." I was like, "Just name your price, as long as it's not, insane. I'm not going to pay you $3,000 for a radiator." But I'd have paid 500-600 bucks that day just to put it on and go, because I
Right.
tried sealing it and I couldn't seal it. So that guy ended up. I mean, great dude, and I probably would have done the same as him, depending. But he ended up getting the bike running. So I was just basically out. I paid all the fees and everything, traveled all the way out to Hondo, got a shakedown and one good pass, and the weekend was over. Like I have spare everything, but I don't have spare radiators. I've got spare tires, spare wheels, spare gearing, chains, all that stuff. I just didn't have a radiator.
Of
I
course,
mean,
because
I
like
think
who runs around with extra radiators, right?
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
but
So now I might, what I'm saying? Like I might order another new one, put the new one on here again, and then have the one that's on here now as a spare. Because the one that's on here now, I put a hole in it again. My heat exchanger got hit by the tire, pushed it back into the radiator fins, and put a hole in this one. So this one's got a sealant on it, and it's good now. But before I go run a shift sector event in April, I need to probably put a new radiator on that's brand new, doesn't have any sealant or nothing. That way I'm not running any issues. Because it's too expensive to take a weekend and then get, one pass and you're done like I did.
Right. So do
that
you
that
think?
is true, especially at a land speed.
Yeah, it's
So do
definitely
you,
not cheap.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
I
So yeah, it's definitely not cheap. Like shift sector, I don't speak for them in any way, shape, or form, but that's kind of what I've been doing for the last couple of years now. It's half mile side by side, but you go for one day. I want to say it's $300, and then if you go for 2 days, it's 550. So you get a little discount on day two by like $50. And then Jason, the organizer, the guy who runs it, is awesome. He'll work with you with whatever you got going on. There are no refunds, but like I missed out on Abilene because the bike wasn't ready. Again, something stupid I did. I crimped a wire with the wrong crimper, and Chris was chasing down gremlins on my bike the day before Abilene started. So again, something stupid, like I said, that I did where I crimped a wire wrong. It was shorting out, so I couldn't build boost. But we missed Abilene. Like I paid for Abilene last October and didn't get to go.
Mm,
But I hit up Jason and he's understanding and he's like, well, we don't do refunds, but he's going to help me out. And the next one that I sign up for, he'll give me the second day for free or whatever he said. So, he's definitely a really good dude and he'll work with you. But when you start paying for these events, you just got to understand what you're getting into, because whether you go or not, like you paid for the event. So You know,
Right.
that's why it's kind of hard. You know, like I was supposed to go this past weekend to California, but had issue with the plate on the bottom of the gas tank. Had a dude locally weld up some fittings onto the aluminum plate, and he welded them in backwards. So gave it back to my buddy, and that dude made me a stainless steel plate and welded them on the right way this time. But you know, that slowed me down by a whole day. I couldn't do any kind of test hits or nothing. So like I ended up not going to California this weekend um, because of that stuff. And then like the wind Saturday was 40 miles an hour out there.
Bro, yeah.
And I was just like, you know, either rain, shine, wind, whatever it is, they're racing. Like there is no weather call. There's no pushing it off a day. Like, you know, if it's windy, there's a crosswind, you're racing, you know, and it's up to you if you want to go make passes, you know, with your bike, or whether you're going to go make a shakedown and only run like 190, 200, and you're not trying to push it.
You got beat by some type of this C3
Nitrous
performance
14.
guy. Yeah. What is he talking about?
Missed Abilene and got gapped by a. Oh, yeah, this guy. So C3 is actually fucking, yeah. So buddy of mine out there, right? So what happened was I did get gapped by a Nitrous 14, his Nitrous 14, out there in Mexico where Chris's shop is. So like I said, I crimped a wire with the wrong crimper. The crimper for the type of connectors that we use is like fucking $400. So now I bought a cheap one for like $150, but it's just a wire crimper for $150. So I used regular wire crimpers, crimped it, and was like, oh, it's holding. It was shorting out. So yeah, Stacy ended up beating me on his like 300 plus something horsepower Nitrous 14 because I was stuck with 4 psi. That was it. The boost ramp would not. It would go to target boost, and then it would drain, and then it would go to target boost, and then it would drain, and then so like the whole time I'm like, you know, it's maybe 300 horsepower with 4 psi or whatever it is, like not very much horsepower, and then it's like it's ramping, and then it cuts out, and then it ramps, and it cuts out. So literally that whole day we were making passes trying to chase the gremlins, and it wasn't building any kind of boost. So yeah, it got me pretty bad. Luckily, it didn't have a camera or the evidence out there.
But it's good. It's all in fun. You know what I'm saying? Even like he just
Oh
said,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It was all done in fun. He definitely said you wasn't on full power. But it's cool that you can actually go back and talk about it and laugh about it or whatever, because y'all were helping each other that day. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
You
yeah.
understood what was going on. And you guys were working with each other. A lot of the community, and I hate to say it, but maybe 90% of it will do that. But that 10% that don't overshadow the 90% that do. And
Yeah, I mean that's basically where I'm at. You know, I heard the podcast earlier, the first one of the day, you know, that Reap did, and it was like, oh yeah, you know, Reaper's the guy you don't get much credit because he's always out trying to help people. He's not trying to hide information or whatever. And like I'm the same way. That's why everybody knows my dyno numbers. I just posted the GPS run from the day. I'll answer anything that I know about the bike. You know, because in my mind, it doesn't matter if I tell you what I have. You're either faster than me or you're not. Like, you know,
Right.
so
Right.
I understand there are certain bikes out there that they don't do that. You know, they're racing for $20,000 or whatever. I'm not racing for $20,000. So, you know, if I do decide to start doing that, I'll build a different bike and nobody will know anything about it. But, you know, I try to help everybody out when they start asking questions, you know, hey, what do I do here? What's this? What's that? To just try and give them the information that it seems like nobody wants to give, right? Because
Yeah.
there's not that many Turbo 14s. And then, you know, like you can't blame some of the builders, right? Because, you know, if I'm just a random customer and I hit up Chris from Boomstoon HQ and I start asking questions all day, but I've not paid him a dime to build the bike or to tune it or anything, what's in it for him to take his time from building a bike to answer all these questions, right?
Right.
So
So
that's
he's not going to take the
money.
time, which, you know, he is actually awesome. He will answer a bunch of questions, but, you know, knowledge comes money, right? So like he's not going to sit there with someone who's not a customer and have 3 hour long discussions on how to do something, right? And it's just it makes sense. He's building other bikes, he's tuning other bikes. Like time is money. Whereas for me, you know, I just make parts. So
Man,
Boosted 14R LLC. I just 3D print parts, and then I try to help as many people as I can with what I know. Hopefully, I've always told people the correct thing. I tell them not to crimp wires with the wrong crimps and things like that. But
and it's plenty of times I hit up Chris randomly, bro. Like, for instance, like some people would want parts for a Jixon 1000 or something. And we know their camp has some powerful bikes, right? And he always has extra parts. So I'll hit up Chris, ask a question, or see if he has some in stock. And I feel like I'm wasting his time because these people are bothering me about it. But I know damn well they probably ain't about to buy, you know what I mean, or spend $5,000 on their motor right now.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, Chris is awesome. He will absolutely answer questions. But when you're a shop owner, that comes a point where it's like, okay, I don't have time. He'll tell you, hey, run this spark plug at this gap or something, but he's not going to sit there and talk to you for an hour about this or that.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Is like, he's awesome. He'll answer questions for people, but it comes a time. Like, I've sat on Facebook Messenger with kids who are building bikes and talked to them for 2-3 hours. They're just asking a question, I give them an answer, ask a question, give an answer, explain why I did something or whatever. To just kind of be that, because I don't own a shop, right? I can put my 3D printer on and let it go, and now I'm free to do whatever, work on a bike or anything. So
yeah, like I was telling you before we went live, man. Like Chris gotta be 90 pounds.
Yeah.
I met him at the H2 meet, bro. Here's a funny what they said to say all the time. Like, here's a fact, right? Like, so when him and 60 Foot came out with that turbo bike, you always pick like the fastest person per se, and then in your mind you like, I'm gonna build something that's commensurate with that so I can beat him, right?
Yeah,
or at least be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that until I saw him down in ATL, and I was like, bro, like I thought he was bigger than this, man. In the pictures, he looked bigger.
Nah, he's literally probably 120, 130 pounds.
I'm like, oh my god, bro, like Richard.
That man is the size of a 9-year-old, bro. Like,
he's tiny.
I mean, he's a fucking hell of a rider, though. Like, he will literally, drag racing, grudge racing, land speed, anything. I have literally been next to him going 200 miles an hour, and his bike does a 3-foot wheelie across the finish line at shift sector. Or where his turbo kicks in, for some reason it surges, and he throws up, 3-4 foot wheelie, middle of the track going 150 miles an hour. And rides it out, lost a little bit of body work, but rides it out, and then decides, fuck it, remove the rest of the body work, and then he ran the bike with no body work the rest of the weekend. Like, he is just an incredible rider. So, to pick him for that bike, when Brett's like, oh, well, Chris is going to be the rider for the Truth, it's like, he's light, he's a fucking amazing rider, and basically, your bike is safe when he's on it, because, I've heard stories of him having tires go out, top speed, tire blows out, he keeps it up. I've had my own share of things, but nothing too crazy. Like, that H2, it ended my weekend because I didn't have a spare tire, but I had my stock front fender on. I was like, hey, the other H2 was no longer in the competition. We went through some stuff with it, and I stole the fender off of Chris's H2. It was just a generic, like, Hayabusa Gen 2 fender, whatever. I bolted up on the H2. It didn't have enough gap, so we had already messed up some H2s that weekend, and I took off on was actually my last run because I messed the tire up. And at about the quarter mile, Chris said, because a quarter mile on the H2 I was going about 170. He said the bike started smoking, and he was like, oh fuck, like, we blew the motor, we're pushing it too hard, whatever. And it just kept smoking all the way down the track. Now, mind you, I'm on the bike, so I don't know anything that's going. I don't see any smoke, right? Because I don't have mirrors on the bike when I'm doing the mile, and I'm definitely not looking backwards.
Right.
Well, when I got to the end, I picked up my ticket, and I was like, what the, like, I ran 215. Now I put this fender on, and I ran like 199 or 198. I was like, what the heck happened? And I got back to the trailers, parked the bike, and Chris was like, look at the fucking fender. I'm like, what do you mean? So that fender, that fender was a cheaper brand, right? and it flexed into the tire. So the entire way I was shredding the front tire for a mile
Oh
while
man.
that fender rubbed it. And there's pictures on my Instagram of that fender. I actually had it. I might still have it around somewhere, but I had it for a while because I got back and was like, well, I owe you a fender. Where'd you buy it from? And I hopped on my phone and ordered him a fender to a shop. I was like, I put a hole in yours, so here's the new one. It'll be there Tuesday or whatever. So like I've gone through that same drama, but um, that's the only reason why. Like right now, I had a generic Gen 2 fender on here, and I was like, nope, we're gonna start going too fast. So Anthony over at AGM is an amazing dude, and bought the fender from him, and I've just sent him the video from the last 2 days with a 220 and a 238 run. The fender with my custom mounts 3D printed held up just fine. There's not flex. It doesn't rub, nothing. So, now you can order that same boost fender on Anthony's website, AGM Motorsports, and actually get my mounts for the ZX14 for it. So he actually stocks them.
That's dope.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I was looking at AGM's chain guard recently, but I really do like the Montgomery ones. I don't understand the pricing. Like $300 for a chain guard, bro.
You might buy a whole arm.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like, bro, like that's ridiculous, man. Like, it's ridiculous.
I mean, for me, it's like I don't know the process to make that, right? So when I look at it, I don't have one. I have the regular DME chain guard. But part of the reason why I don't have one is because my DME I had to cut down because I have such a short wheelbase. It actually hit the subframe for a little while, my AGM subframe. So I had to cut it down. And when I look at Anthony's carbon fiber one, the only reason I don't have it is because I'm like, well, where am I going to cut it? And how is it going to look after I cut it? Because I want a fast bike, but I also want a good looking bike, right? Because it is still street legal. It's still plated and insured. And like, I rode it out to a car show yesterday, and unfortunately they were giving me some flack at the gate entrance. So I didn't even go in, but I still ride it around town. Like I'll ride it over to the dealership, go hang out at meetups and show it off and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I couldn't tell you the pricing on it because I don't know, what he does to make it. I don't know if it's harder to make than another one because the mold is more intricate or something. I don't know.
Man, look,
I with that molding stuff, man, because a lot of the stuff when they get it in and they do molding for it, it's not always. You might get close to 80 to 90% with doing a mold, but it's always going to be something you have to go into and kind of fabricate a little bit to make it fit.
Carbon fiber, gotta love it.
Yeah. So 100%. I will say this: I've had Moto Composites, I've had Montgomery. Actually, these are Montgomery headlights, and I like the Montgomerys because the Montgomerys have a projector headlight, whereas Anthony's AGM ones for now have like little LEDs. Stacy's got those on his bike, but I got these a long time ago before I really started talking with Anthony for the AGM stuff. I have not had any fitment issues and had to like modify or change anything on anything AGM I've ever bought.
Really?
Like the fender bolted right up. I've got the ram air covers. I've got the fins on the side. The whole tail is all carbon. My seat pan is carbon. None of it I had to like shave a hole or change something. It's literally all just bolted right on. Yeah, there's probably a little bigger gaps or a little uneven gaps compared to OEM. But like I've never had to like, oh well, I gotta oblong this hole in order to get it to fit right. You know what I'm saying? Or like, oh, I gotta tweak it, heat it up and tweak it so it sits right. Like all the AGM stuff bolts right up, the holes line up perfect. Every once in a while, because my bike has so much on it, like I broke the pin off of the little triangle that sits by the tail light. The pin broke off because I pulled on it. It ain't Anthony's, fault or bad part or anything. It's just that pin broke off because I pulled on it in a funny way. And, that's like the only thing. And as soon as something like that happens, I shoot him a picture of it. I'm like, hey, just so and he takes that. And I don't know if he's going to change the designs or whatever, but basically I just give him feedback on anything that happens with his parts. I still have the same piece on the bike now. It just doesn't have the pin. you know,
Gotcha.
and it still runs fine. You know, the seat pan holds it on. Um, but yeah, I've never had to modify anything from AGM ever in order to get it to fit. It all bolts right out.
I'm gonna have to check them out then, because
No, don't check.
any carbon fiber I've ever looked at, man, and I've ordered.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've had
It's about the
the
expensive
moto
part.
composites, and the moto composite stuff, you know, sometimes you got to modify it, sometimes you don't. Um, but with his stuff, you know, he's got a V weave pattern so that the left hand, right hand sides of the bike, and like when I put all the tail work on, all the pattern goes the same direction on either side.
Nice.
So
Mhm.
like you order moto composites, and the front fender just has a pattern that cuts across the whole thing, right? It's just one direction. On his stuff, like this fender right here, there's a seam in the middle and there's a V pattern that goes down to the front. So like it's super clean looking, it's meticulously made, and in my experience, it's been flawless for every piece that I've ever put on the bike. You know, and it all has the same design. All the parts go the same direction. So like, you know, if you were to order all the same carbon that I have, you would literally have the exact same pattern where, you know, the V goes out and the sides line up with the seat pan, that lines up with the center, that lines up with the tail light delete, like all that stuff. Everything
That's
lines up
nice.
perfect. So
That's nice. Because that's one of the things a lot of people actually run into when they order in carbon. It might be the same carbon fit, but it's like the pattern itself would end up being a little different or off.
yep. Yeah, that's one of the things like for the Gen 3 back here. I was looking at some of the carbon for like around the headlight and the very front. But I see when people put the carbon headlight in and then they put that front panel on, you know, one piece of carbon's running this way and the other piece is running that way. So like the headlight's all one direction and then the piece around it is going the other direction. And to me, I don't like the look of it. Like I would rather just leave it LEM black and headlight, you know. If AGM started making parts for that and it had that same V weave pattern to where straight up the middle of the bike through the headlight and through the piece around it, it was a pattern that went out, I'd buy it all right now. Like I'd instantly switch all that stuff over because it's such a clean look.
Yeah.
But yeah, like trying to buy carbon and like one piece runs this way and the other piece runs that way, and then you put another piece on and it's horizontal. It's not even running at an angle. You know, the lines go straight across, and you're just like, ugh. Like sometimes it don't look right.
So I guess I got a question, right? Like, so if someone wanted to build that bike you have sitting right behind you, how much would they have to spend?
So to literally have this bike, I bought it new for like 12K. So I include that in the price. 2016, man. This is before COVID.
I was
Uh,
like, hold on.
yeah, no.
That's kind of cheap.
We'll get into that in a minute. I don't ever pay MSRP, but I buy a lot of bikes, right? Like I've been
Gotcha.
back in El Paso for a year and a half, and I've bought like 3 bikes from the dealer, the local dealer. So like I don't have to pay MSRP because he knows I'm coming back to buy another bike in 6 months. But anyway, so I got the bike for 12, so that's what I count in it. There was a breakdown video on my YouTube channel back when I had like 50K, 45K into it. But as it sits right now, it's over 60K. And basically, I got to compile all the numbers um, and do another breakdown video that updates into what it is now. And like that 60K isn't like, you know, oh, well, I bought this, you know, it's not counting like an AMS 1000 boost controller. I'm on a max ECU now. So, you know, I'm not going to count me spending money on an AAM data logger and AMS 1000 on the build because it's not on the bike anymore. So literally what is sitting on the bike is over 60K.
I wonder why didn't you use the AMS on top of the Max ECU so you can have several like ways to swip maps on the fly and all of that? Like, why didn't you use that? Is there a reason
So,
or?
well, so for the AMS 1000, I didn't have a 2000. I don't know the difference between the two. I know the 2000 has the little knob and you can set it all up differently. But when I was on the AMS stock ECU, it was basically boost by gear.
Oh,
So
okay.
like I would only get 10 psi in third gear, and you run that 10 psi all the way up to the end of third gear, and you hit fourth, and it's the same, you know, 12 psi or whatever. The way this is set up right now through the max, I have a standard pressure running through, and then when I hit the headlight switch to high beam, it switches a timer and it starts a ramp based on the timer. And then the only thing that resets that is if I drop my throttle hand below a certain percent, it'll reset that ramp. But like in my opinion, it's way better having it like that by time, because I can ramp all the way from, spring pressure to 15, 20 PSI in a gear and a half, 2 gears. And then I'm just at max boost, right? Whereas like on the AMS 1000, it would be like, oh, well, now I'm at 12 PSI until I hit 5th gear. Well, now I'm at 14 PSI until I hit 6th gear. This is just like, you can control the ramp. So when I throw that switch, it starts ramping. And as long as I can adjust that ramp, which Chris would end up doing if I had issues wheeling or anything like that, you can make the ramp shorter, make the ramp longer, to try and fight those wheelies. But right now, like I went out and did my test hit and went 238 and it was solid, planted to the ground. Now I just got to work on getting it, snapped. Like we were talking the other day on your podcast, snapping to 100% throttle rather than rolling into it. But it's just so sketchy on a turbo bike when you're in first gear to just be like,
about to say, that's a lot to do.
Yeah, and you're in first gear.
Yeah.
So it's sketchy. Like the gearing is super tall, but it'll still come up on you. I had it running 300 horsepower and I took it out to a drag strip in Washington with snail speed. I don't know if you guys are talking about it the other day, right?
Yeah.
So Skip, they don't have no racing out there. So we went out to a drag strip and it was 60-inch bike. I left it on low boost pump map. And if I would pin it in second, the bike just came up and I'd have to chop it to get it to set back down, and now with the max, I'm getting it to 100 and first, it shifts into second and I'm already pinned. I can hit the ramp and it's just planted and goes, so I think the way the boost is set up through the max right now is way better than an AMS 1000. And I don't know, you might be able to wire in an AMS 1000 to do that. It's just not how mine was set up,
Well, no. So I initially had an AMS 1000 for my turbo build, but I ended up selling that and then going to the AMS 2000. And it's really for that very reason, just because I wanted the ability to just, switch with the little knob. The knob is cool. I want to be able to switch those maps on the fly like that. So,
yeah. So I mean, that would be cool, but like for me, if I'm just rolling around, the bike it used to be pump and C85. Now it only runs C85. I didn't even pay to have Chris tune it on pump gas because I'm like, I don't need it. But yeah, basically the bike's always on C85. And then if I just want like low boost, 300 horsepower, I just don't hit my ramp. Right. And then, if I want to race like, oh shit, GTR's pulling on me, high beams on. Now I'm ramping up, I'm going from 5, 6, 7, whatever PSI up to 20, so it's kind of like, it's like having like you're saying, flip it on the fly. It's just, if I don't need it, I can just stay on wastegate pressure and it makes, however much horsepower. Or if, I do need it, flip the high beam on, ramp goes, and then the bike is just gone.
So you think that right now, the way your bike sits, if you was to sit beside an NA bike with like nitrous, like that same guy, C3 Performance, what do you think would happen now? Would you beat him?
So he actually was out this weekend. I wanted to go out there. It would all depend, in my opinion, on how well his bike is running. He only sprayed once this weekend from what I'm tracking. I would definitely out mile per hour him. But now when we're talking ET, right? So shift sector is a standing start where you're stopped. I'm sure if we had enough people, like we were talking to get people in a bracket, we could set it up and have like a little roll in and then be at the line at 40 lined up and then go to do a roll race. I'm sure Jason would allow us to do that. We just have to talk to him and find out, But from a dead stop, it just depends on who takes off, right? Because if he gets out on me far enough and then he sprays, I might not catch him. But the mile per hour at the end, he might be going 205 and I'm going 210, So definitely out mile per hour him, which is how the contest is judged in SIF sector, is mile per hour. But like I think he has the ability to out ET me based on how slowly I roll in. Because like land speed, I've got videos up me going against Chris because I just race against him. you know, he knows I'm a good rider. I know he's a good rider. I don't have to worry about nothing coming into my lane. And, you know, I would just slow roll out, get set on, you know, get my body position set. And then once I'm set, I'm into the throttle. Whereas like if I'm going to try and beat Stacy here, I'm going to have to take off like a bat out of hell off the line and go, you know, which is just not how I'm used to doing it. So, but yeah, I mean, that's something that I definitely want to do though, is, you know, a few times now, Chris has tried to get enough bikes out to do an event. But you know, like you were mentioning the other day, it's expensive. So a lot of people do stick to the Miami meets and to the street. You know, there's 10, 12 bikes maybe at an event. And then out of that, there's usually 4 or 5 turbo bikes that are super fast. Like there's a guy named Jay. He's got a Turbo ZX14. It puts in work. He's been faster than I ever have. His just isn't as pretty. It's kind of beat up, but he got a standalone on it, and it runs well. Like this past weekend, he ran a 212. I want to say, at Ship Sector on Saturday. So yesterday, yeah. So I mean, his bike works. You know, and then if Chris comes out, if he brings a bike or a customer bike he's riding to try and do some tuning and testing on, there'll be mine, and then, you know, there's a couple other people like Pat will come out with a Turbo Busa. Every once in a while, Shane will show up just to show that he is the fastest man on the planet, you know, and everybody else will be struggling to hit 210. Like I've never hit 210 and a half mile, and Shane will come out and be like, here's a 226. Like, what? You know, that man's just on another level. Like it was Abilene, I want to say. He showed up the last day of competition. We helped set up the bike, get everything right, and he went out and made like a 226. Like he won the day with mile per hour.
I don't know, man. Like, so the GPS numbers versus the sanctioned event numbers, because Poindexter can tell you when we went to Land Speed, the Ohio Mile, I thought it was easy to do 200 mile per hour. That's what I thought.
No.
I was like, yeah, man, I don't care. Like my bike makes all of this power and it's all good. It wasn't all good. I don't think I went over 100 and what was my top speed that day? 188 or something like
180, like 187, 188, something like that.
Now, granted, we had a headwind and then we had some side winds and stuff too. But like, regardless, Jeremy out of Classic Motorcycle Performance, you know, CMP out of Gallatin, he did for my 170 or 80, he did 214.
Yep. Yeah. What bike were you on when you ran like the 188 or whatever?
The H2.
Was I on the H2 or the boot or the BMW? I think I was on the H2. No, was I on the BMW? No, that was the H2.
The BMW did 170, like 170,
175 or 70 something, like and then the H2 was 188. I'll never forget it because Travis, you know, Jaeger works. So Travis got on the bike and did 206. And then Jeremy got on there spinning through third gear and did 214.
And on the same H2.
Yeah, on the same freaking bike.
Spun the wheel, missed 2 gears, and still hit.
I mean, so I think I had the video on my YouTube. Chris running an H2R, the same 2019 Texas Mile that I ran the H2 in. And you can tell the horsepower difference. He literally takes off, and all you hear is him spin the tire first to sixth gear and run a half a mile in like 220 something. And it's just crazy. And then mine, you know, is out there and you can hear it. It sounds good. And then I go 215, right, in a mile. Now, granted, that's going from a fully built motor H2R to a bone stock H2 and, you know, 130-pound rider and 220-pound rider. But yeah, I mean, that's why I have that video up. Poor guy, I don't know who that nitrous jixer was. He asked me, "Hey, are you going to spray?" And I said, "No, I'm not spraying. Don't worry." And I posted the video, and the video's, you know, caption is, "You're only fast on the streets," because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, it's easy to go 200." It's like, well, it's not though. Because when you go 200 on the street, you have no idea, right? Like even the data I just got on this bike, I went 238, but I don't know what that's going to trap in a Texas Mile, you know, because What if I went 100 foot beyond a mile? What if I was 100 foot short of the mile? What if whatever it is, it's going to be different, right? And then like I got a 238 on my Garmin 401. It was a 237 on GoPro camera, and it was only like a 236 on the dash on the tablet. So 3 different GPS speeds, all for the same run, right? So GPS is accurate. It's definitely better than changing the sprocket and going off of a stock speedo. But yeah, running over 200 at an actual event is definitely more painful, I think, for people than what they'd want to admit.
I think when I see guys always saying that they're doing 200 plus whatever in the streets, I'm just like, man, I just don't know, because I know how hard it was for me. I didn't break 200 yet,
Yeah.
So, and for guys like our size, actual men, guys that size as men, bro, like that's hard to beat. You know what I mean? You know how much power?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
yes, you do. How much power it takes to get us that 200 mile per hour?
Oh yeah. My H2 went 215 in the mile, and it made like 260 ish to the wheel. And I was probably 220 back then. I've been basically the same weight for a decade. But yeah, it's crazy. Like I'm not gonna name names, but there's people out there that I follow, and they're like, "Oh, top speed run, stock motor, this bike, I went 215," and it's like, yeah, in 3 miles. It's like nobody's racing you for 3 miles, bro. It doesn't like I could hold this wide open for 3 miles and be like, oh, I ran a 267, but it doesn't matter if it took me the last 2 miles to go above 250. Like, so to me, it's what you can do in an actual measured event, right? Like,
Yeah.
I went 238, but if I go to a Texas mile, then we'll find out what it really runs, right? Because that's proof. I get a slip that says, hey, I did it. And then they print me a certificate saying, hey, that's your name, that's your bike, and you did it on this day. But yeah, I think a lot of the street guys, I think they'd have a lot of fun at Shift Sector, but I think some of them will find it painful. Like, I don't know if Stacy broke 200 on that nitrous ZX14. I don't think he did, but maybe he did. But yeah, you find out real quick how hard it is to go 200 when it's actually at an event and you have to do it, from a dead stop to a half a mile.
Yeah. I think it's crazy, like, because I think for me it would be like, so I've gone 190 miles per hour in the street, but then I get to Shift Sector and it's like, yeah, bro, you only went 130. I'd be mad.
Yeah.
I'd be mad. I was mad. P, remember that? I was mad at land speed. So angry. I'm like, how the hell? You know how much this H2 costs, bro? And I can't get over 200.
I knew I was out of my league. I knew I was out of my league when I got out of the truck. We download the trailer. This guy comes over and he's like, hey man, are you busy? And I'm like, no, I'm not busy. What's going on? He's like, I could really use some help. This old dude walks me over to a Harley with a turbo the size of something off of a diesel truck. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
he's going 200 is what he's doing.
I don't think that Harley broke 200, did he?
No, probably not.
No. It went one. It went faster, but it didn't go 200. It went like 191 or 192 or something like that.
That is flying for a Harley, though.
Right, and then he had like 2 or 3 other things that happened to it, and he was back. Like every run, he was back on the side with the bike like jacked up, ready to do some work on it. And I'm just like, at this point, dude, like it's not worth it. Like,
bro, yeah, I don't even think his first half mile was on on 2 wheels, bro.
Nah, he was. I was like,
I mean, that bike was just. I mean, it was all over the place the whole time.
I'll never forget that dude, man. I called him Super Dave Osborne the whole time we were there, man.
Yeah, now turbo with them Harleys. Yeah, turbo with them Harleys, man. They get a lot of torque. That I've seen a couple of the turbo Harleys, and it's like, oh, it makes 250 horsepower, but then it has like 200 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah.
So yeah, just. Turbo on the V-twin, it just doesn't, in my opinion, it'd take a lot to go 200, especially when you have no aerodynamics. You're sitting on a cruiser. It's a heavy bike, and you're running a V-twin, so it's going to make power differently. You're going to have a ton of torque, like you guys were saying. He's wheeling the whole way. That's because he's got probably more torque than this bike does, and he's on a Harley. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
In that class, you ain't dropping no weight. All you doing is adding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Steel frame, big old heavy motor. Like
Yeah.
my lowrider S was like 700 pounds, and it was pretty light, but it was heavy as hell. You know.
I guess I got a question about your brake setup, because I know you got the Behringer stuff on there. So is it worth it, man? Is that the baller option too?
So yeah, the Behringers, I think it's worth it. I had one rotor Brembo because the SE model came with the Brembos as the first year, and it wasn't as responsive with just the one on the front. So I switched over for Abilene. I had Chris order them. He brought them to Abilene. I installed them, bled them, did everything right there at the side of the track. And like this setup is money now. Like I don't feel any kind of like sketched out because I only have one brake. You know, my rear brake is a lightened rotor, so like it's usable. It's steel, but it doesn't slow the bike down. So like that's my only lifeline. You know, so yeah, it was expensive, but it was also purple. You know, that's why I bought it. Like, let's be real.
You brought it because it was purple.
But no, like honestly though, the Behringer, if you're switching over to one front rotor, I would always recommend just doing a Behringer. Like it costs money, but like really, you're gonna put a price on your brakes when you're trying to go 200 miles an hour, or like today,
Safety,
238. You know, like nah, I'm gonna go ahead and spend $1,500 and buy the rotor and the caliper. You know.
So I was looking to the Behringer for the K46, right, for my S1000. And P, you know about this. So I finally checked my email because I was like, damn, this dude ain't got back with me. It's almost $2,000, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Almost $2,000 for some damn brakes.
Yep, you went with the Baller magnetic retractable caliper then, right?
Yep.
Yeah, bro.
So I don't think I have that. I told Chris, hey, order me the Behringers. He got me a price, and I gave him the money, and he brought them to Abilene. I don't think I have that option, but like the rotor is like $700 for one.
Yes.
And then the caliper is like $650, $700.
Mm-hmm. The baller option is an additional $400 on top of that.
Yeah. So you're talking what, $1,400, and then the baller option $1,800. Like, yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and that's just the rotor and the caliper, bro. Like that's not even the master.
I got the vortex on here.
And that's and brother, that's just by one. That ain't two.
Yeah. The masters are like another $650.
Oh my god, bro! Like that's expensive. So that's times two. What is that? $3,000 to $4,000 on brakes?
No, easy, yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, you got to figure if it was $1,800 for one side, now you're talking 36 plus another 13. So was that 49 just for front brakes? Two masters, two rotors, two calipers. $4,900.
Almost $5,000 after taxes.
But a ton of people won't buy that, but they'll put on them carbon fiber wheels like you were talking about the other day.
Yeah, man.
It's
carbon fiber is expensive, but it's cheap compared to the other stuff.
Well, you could have a full dual, like a full front brake setup for the same price as carbon fiber wheels. The only difference is they don't make you faster. They're brakes. So
there you go.
And that's why people won't spend money on it. It doesn't make you fast, right? Like people be drilling holes in parts and cutting things off, but for brakes, nah. Brembo's work good.
Man. $3,000 to $4,000 on brakes. I'm putting that into the motor or something. Like P know how I am. I'll crack a motor before I do all that. That's too much work,
bro.
I
promise you. I got to the point to where at night I don't even turn my phone off no more because I know if I wake up I'm gonna have like 30 freaking voicemails and like 6 videos. This dude then like sat there and took a drill to a frame or something like that and just like punched the whole
I think those dudes were like in the Middle East somewhere. I seen the same video where they're drilling holes in the frame. I'm like, nah. I'm content with 480. I've got added weight on the bike, so like it's actually lighter than that. If I, took all that weight out, it'd be lighter.
Yeah.
But,
so how late?
I'm not drilling holes in that frame. Hell no.
So, I ain't gonna lie. Like last night, or was it earlier today? I called Pointdexter and I said, man, so what I had to do, man, I got a motor done, and I tried to put the motor in, but the frame needed to be modified. So all of the bolts in the head was offset from the frame. It made me mad. So I had to spend another fucking $80 to $100 on some stupid, what would you call them? Inserts?
Yeah.
And
Like
then I had to drill, like basically drill my frame. But while I was doing it, Luke, I got done. And I looked at my frame and I'm like, bro, I'm at the perfect time where I could drill holes in my frame and drop more weight. I'm serious. Like that's what I thought. I was sitting there looking at it. I was like, I'm not an engineer, but I'm like, where's the point of failure if I just start drilling holes in my frame? They do it in Grudge.
Luke, do you see what I'm saying, bro?
They do it in Grudge all the time.
They do, but they also blow the motor every passing Grudge sometimes.
Yeah,
that's why I can't be no Grudge racer. And when I learn how to build motors, then I can Grudge race. Because I can't afford to be paying somebody to rebuild my motor because I blew it. You know, like Chris literally has a picture up where they're like, "Oh yes, look at how happy you are." The bike was rolling back, and he's like, "It must have not have blown up." He's like, "No, it was probably blown up, but it was fun." I was like, "Jesus."
Yeah, man. When you can build your own stuff, that's the difference, bro.
Yeah, if all I got to do is buy parts, I got to buy some new bearings or whatever, and I know how to rebuild a motor, maybe I could get into Grudge. But until then, like, I can't be paying nobody, rebuild money after every pass or every day of racing. Like, nah.
Yeah.
That's too much money.
Dude, after I seen a couple of like legit Grudge races, like the big boys, the ones that really run that power, I'm like, ain't no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. Them boys not even they don't even have a start button on their bike, bro. They got the guys coming up at the line and hitting theirs. Starting it like that. And I'm like, hold on, bro. What is he doing? Like,
hey, but you know what? The street
jump start at the line.
Bro, the street is gonna turn into that. Watch. The way this road racing thing is happening, man, I'm telling you. Luke, I know you see it down in Texas. Like,
oh yeah.
He said it. People are like, they're stripping the hell out of their bikes, but like, okay, I'm gonna get back to those wheels though. So you're telling me that you would rather have the core motos than carbon fiber? Is that what you're saying, Luke?
Yeah, 1,000%.
I completely agree.
1,000%. So carbon fiber look real cool, but you talked about it the other day. They have an expiration date, right? So I'm not trying to buy $5,000 wheels every 5-6 years, whenever they expire, right? And then, I mean, I guess they make them in purple now. You know what I'm saying? But like, I like the core. They're super light. Like, I don't think I've never had carbon fiber wheels, but I don't think you save that much weight from a core moto to a carbon fiber. So if you look up the weights between the two, I don't think there's that much of a difference.
It's not. I measured mine when I first got mine versus a set of core moto wheels, and I want to say, believe it or not, the front was lighter than the core moto wheel, but the rear was actually heavier than the core moto wheel. So overall, it averaged out. I still was like maybe 3.5 pounds lighter overall. But look at the price; it's like half the price.
Oh yeah, core motos are like what, $3,200 or something.
Not even that anymore.
For a set.
Like they're like $2,500 what they've been running. Well, I mean, they've been doing sales, but they're like $2,500.
Yeah, now I mean, I'd rather have core. Like, so I've been buying Luke that owns core. I've been buying his bike parts since it was A1A Sport Bike. I don't even know if Luke owned the company back then, but that came from my days of like, oh, my bike's got to look cool. I'm in this club and buying all sorts of stuff off of A1A, and then it switched over to core moto, and then buying brake lines and things like that because you can get the colors that match your bike. And then I got these wheels. These are actually the V-Tracks, the old V-Tracks from Carazaria. And now I want to say the Apex 6s that he actually designed, Luke designed, are lighter than these, I want to say.
They are.
Like these aren't even, these are the old school V-Tracks. And it's just, I like the look of them. And I bought them, before Luke made the Apex 6. So like that bike back there is going to get the purple Apex 6s on it. Like, I'm not buying the carbon fiber wheels. It's just, I trust the billet aluminum. I think they look better. And I don't think there's that much of a weight difference.
Well, I tell you, man, when you're ready for some core motos, hit me up, bro. I got you.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm actually trying to do the same thing. I got to go file for my resellers so I can start doing what you're doing and help all the people I know out.
No, I ain't doing it. I ain't helping nobody.
Yep.
Don't. No, I'm not. No.
But
Yeah,
no, I just mean like people don't want to go online and order shit. It's like they just want to text somebody and be like, "Yo, I want wheels for my bike." Be like, "Cool, this is how much they cost. Fucking, I'll order them up for you. You don't even have to go on the internet." You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean by like helping people out. It's like the
Yeah.
Pro Bolt thing. People are like, "Yo, I want fucking red bolts." I'm like, "Cool, I got you. What's your bike?" Like they don't want to go on a website and try and decipher, what exact fuck bike is on the drop down. Like if you've ever gone on Pro Bolts, Pro
Hold on.
Bolt is not easy to do.
You a Pro Bowl dealer?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, hold on, man. Now you know damn well.
Oh,
Now hold on, man. Now you know
here
damn
we
well.
go.
No. Now he knows.
Here we
You know
go.
how much money I've spent on stupid Pro Bowl?
Yeah, a lot. I do know.
Oh my God, man.
But
Here we
yeah,
go.
like it's literally like I want to get the dealership accounts for my LLC so that people are just like, hey, it's like what Chris does. Chris is awesome at it too. Hey, I want these Q5s. And all I got to do is send Chris the money and the Q5 show up the next day. I don't have to go on the internet and look for them. I have to check for sizes. I'm not worried about availability. I just give Chris Caden the money. He sends the tires. And that's basically what I want to be able to do for people. And I'm trying to get Brock's and Core and all that for the business so that when someone's like, yo, I like your purple wheels, I want them. Okay, well, what's your bike? I'll order them right now. And then I make a little money for my business and they don't have to go on the internet and try and figure out, well, do I want this or do I want that option? It's like, no, you text me what you want. I'll tell you the price and they'll come to your house in a few days.
All right. Well,
Convenience.
since you're already a dealer, I'm not going to do the work then. So what I'll hit you up. No, for real, because like hey, it doesn't bother me. I'll look through all the microfishes and you know what I mean. But since I know you, hey man, I'll hit you offline. Oh, by the way, let me advertise for you. Hey, so if y'all want some Pro Bowl, hit my man up. Hit up Luke. Hit up Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need it, man, because I need more bolts actually. So
if you just order the kits, it's super easy. This bike, I was going through the microfiche, measure, I pull a bolt out, measure it, go find it, order it.
MA by 50 by 125. Yeah, like that's the aggravating part of it. But I'll tell you,
I got a whole spreadsheet. A whole spreadsheet.
Oh, do you?
What bolts are on mine?
So, for me, I'm trying to with my bikes, because the turbo bike, I'm not certain how much titanium I'm going to put on that. Primarily, it's the NA bike that I'm focusing on. But even with the NA bike, it's kind of like, in my mind, this is going to make sense. I know this is probably stupid, but it's almost like I'm saying the bottom of the bike is steel. And as I get higher up, everything is titanium. So that way I can, in a way, keep all of that weight centrally located at the bottom, the center of gravity low. So I don't have to do what you did and put 60 pounds of lead on my bike.
Man.
I'm not doing that.
You might have to do 120. I'm saying like.
Oh yeah. And look, I'll.
Yeah, when you start looking at, and we had this conversation. When you start looking at certain powers, like when you start getting into the real big boy power, and you still want to do this lightweight everything, I want lightweight. You got to realize that come at a disadvantage at some point. You know what I'm saying? It's fine to have a 300-pound bike when you only making low 200s. You know what I'm saying? And you out here trying to run people. Yeah, that's fun. But you're making high, low 400s, high 400, 500 horsepower. Don't come out there with a 300-pound bike. You're gonna look like a cartoon. You're gonna be flipping all over the place, man. Like, it ain't no fun at that point. Every time you hit that throttle, you're gonna be trying to push the front end down.
Man, I don't know. I mean, Luke's bike is relatively light for what it is. So I mean,
yeah, but you see Luke.
I don't know.
Too.
Yeah. I mean, just like you, I weigh over 200 pounds, and then. The bike's light because it's a standalone. So the only wires on there are wires that are required, right? I don't have a heavy harness like some people. They strip your bike down. You're putting titanium, spending thousands of dollars on titanium, and you got 3 pounds of copper wire that's not hooked up to random stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like,
wonder who that is.
yeah, exactly. So
I don't know who
there
that
are
is.
people
Hey,
that
me.
go through all that stuff, but
Hey,
like,
hey, you ain't talking to me. I know you ain't
I ain't
talking to me.
doing
I ain't do that.
that.
Because
This
you
man
know,
handed me a handful of TI bolts today when I was standing there, bro.
Yeah, he handed you $500 worth of TI bolts because them
Yeah.
things are expensive.
He's
Like
like, yo, P, hold these. I'm like, what is this?
that's $1,000 is what that is. You get a little palm full of titanium bolts.
Yeah.
It's $1,000.
He's
yeah,
like,
it's
you can do this
definitely
too.
heavy,
I was like,
man.
nah, I'm good. I'm good.
It's
Yeah,
definitely expensive.
I was looking at just the titanium bolts because I tried to use aluminum, and I think that's why I had boost leaks. Is the aluminum probably stretching or whatever? I couldn't tighten it. Went back to the steel, but I'm looking at just the bolts. So 6 bolts to bolt the top plates, and then 6 bolts for the ram air, the intakes on the frame, and then the filter block off. Just those bolts in titanium is probably $150, $200 for like 12 bolts.
Yeah.
Like 6 millimeter little bolts, not even big ones. You know, you start getting into the bigger stuff, like the bolts that are on the caliper here. Those were $15 a piece or something, or $12 a piece, because they're purple, so that costs more. They're
Yep.
race drilled, so I don't have to drill it. That costs more, you know. And then
They
it's an
gotta be
M10 by like 50, which is a big bolt. So like, yeah, it's expensive.
It
It's
is.
definitely not cheap to go titanium. It's much cheaper to cut that harness up. So I don't blame people that do it, but like, yeah, this bike, I don't have any extra wire. Like, there's nothing extra. There's nothing on the bike that it's not required to do what it does.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like there's, I don't even on the opposite side. I don't even have the adapter to put the rotor. It's just the bare wheel. You know, and like I could go all crazy and cut the tabs off to add the bolt holes in them, but then it'd be ugly. You know what I'm saying? So I could make the wheel lighter by cutting it, but then it's ugly. But like I don't have literally, there's not a bolt on the bike that doesn't do something. You know,
Right.
and I could lighten it more. Like I have titanium bolts in places, but like, you know, I see some people with the ZX10s where they got one bolt holding the front on here.
I seen that, bro. I can't do it.
And it's like, I could do that, but
Nah.
I want the bike to look good too. So I got titanium, both of them, you know, an aluminum nut on the back. Because Lord knows a titanium nut for the back of that's like $4 a piece. But yeah, like just by premise of
It's
how
so
the bike
expensive.
is, everything
Hey,
has a
man.
purpose on the bike. There is no like part on the bike that doesn't have a purpose anymore because it's, you know, we got a max ECU, so it's got a custom harness from Boomstoon, and that harness is super light, and he uses the Tefzel wire, DTM plugs, everything.
Oh yeah.
You know, so when you're talking like a lot of the stuff that the guys do to lighten those NA bikes up, because to be fast with 200 horsepower, you have to have a light bike. That's just, I don't have those issues because I don't have, there's nothing on the bike because of how much I've done to it. That's not there for a reason, you know?
Right.
So, but yeah, it gets expensive with titanium. Like, I'm nowhere near done with the titanium on this, but like at some point, I probably need to put a suspension on it. So, I think
You
my
not
next
running a
thing should,
suspension?
nah, it's factory.
What?
Look.
I can zoom in. I'll shoot you a picture later. That's a factory shock.
Hey, no, I'm about to, I'm about to go off, right? Like,
Look,
what?
he looks
What?
So
he's like, I spent $15,000 on the front end alone just for
it's
rotors.
not even valved. It's
Factory,
not
factory
sprung.
shop.
It's not valved. That rear shock on the back of this $60,000 bike is how it came off the factory floor in fucking Japan. Like it ain't even adjusted.
Man, that's crazy, bro.
Oh my
You at
god.
least got to get it revalved, man. At least that.
Nah, I just
No,
need to order a shock. But like
even
I
greater
said, man,
because
I'm.
once you do that, it's gonna be faster. You know what I
Oh
mean? You
yeah,
can really dig a lot harder on it and get even faster. So it's
yeah.
just
But like
a plus to come.
I'm half retarded, right? So like I just spent $700 on purple bolts. You know what I'm saying? Like the body work is all held on by titanium now because it looks good.
Hey,
And
I
that
feel
was
you,
like
look.
$300 just
I
a
feel
couple
you,
of
little
bolts here,
bro.
a couple there, and it's all purple and it looks good. It's like the
Like,
purple blue. But I could have
no.
just left the
Hey,
steel hardware in there and bought the damn shop. But I bought the purple bolts. That was literally
so,
last week. I came back from the field and I bought $560 worth of purple bolts.
hey, this is what I understand, right? So my man, he indirectly threw shade at the road race community. I see these guys do this to their wiring harnesses, blah 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 blah. But the man got $700 bolts with a stock shock.
Yeah.
Like what? Like who does that, bro? Like who has a 500-600 horsepower bike with a stock shock?
Bro, my brother Pearl said it too. He was like, that man got all that money in that bike and he's still on a stock shock.
Yeah, dude. That's the thing though, is like I'm not even trying to throw shade on the roll racers for like cutting their harnesses. Like you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So
yeah.
Like it's not really throwing shade at the roll racers. Like if you're racing and you have a stock motor and that's your thing, is I'm the fastest stock 1000.
Right.
Then yeah, you're gonna have to cut out the extra wires in the harness. You're gonna have to remove the headlights. You're gonna have to buy titanium bolts because like with a stock motor, you're only getting what your tuner can get out of it. True. So it just depends on what fuel you run, and you know every bike likes different fuel, right? So you're only going to get so much horsepower. So the only way to be better than everybody else is to be lighter, and that's when you know I can't blame you for cutting the extra wires out of a harness. Now I will talk some shit if I see people starting to put fucking holes in the frame because they're trying to be like that. That to me is like stepping the line. But like I fully understand, you know, if you're going to take your harness, take it off the bike, depin the ones that aren't being used, and pull that wire out, like that adds up, right? Like the difference between the factory harness and the one that's on this now is probably pounds worth of weight.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't blame a roll racer when they're like, oh yeah, I took out all the extra wires. Like I don't blame you. Copper's heavy. Like them wires get heavy when you got 6-7 feet of, you know, extra wire that runs to a sensor that's not being used for an ABS pump because you took the pump out. Yeah, I mean, 1,000% take those wires out. So it's not really throwing shade at them, but yeah, no,
man.
I need to get a shock before like April. Realistically, like I need to not show up to Hondo with a stock shock.
Hey, look, man. Hey, look. This is my problem with you, bro. So when we first got on here, we had 100 fucking like people were watching. 100 people. There's like 5 now because they all jumped off when they heard your stock shot. They all jumped off. They all lost interest because of your shot. For real, bro. Like because they're wondering like, why am I watching this guy with a stock shot? He got 800 horsepower with a stock shot. Like what? Who does that?
The funny thing is though is. With the bike makes 560, right? I don't have a Dynograph. Chris told me it makes 560. I don't really care. That's a cool number to put out there.
Yeah.
But the bike makes 560. It's on a standalone and it's controlled well enough that with literally factory sealed rear suspension, the forks are just slid up. They're not adjusted, lowered. They're full. All I did was slide them up. Those are from the factory too. It's not revalved. It's not nothing. It's not cut. It's still running 238. So, yeah, I mean, if I put a shock on it before, Hondo in April, like, hopefully I'll be faster. You know, that's literally, it's just.
Oh, you definitely will be. 100%.
Yeah, but these shocks are expensive, man. God dog, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But then
I'm still waiting on my fucking shock.
You got to dial it in, too. You know, anytime you start changing anything on a bike, especially suspension-wise, you know, it's time to dial it in.
Hey, you know what, Luke, man? I'll tell you, man. A lot of people go with Penske, right, over the M2 shock. But I've been talking with Marcus, bro. He's making me a lightweight option. That'll be it sounds about 2 to 3 pounds lighter than the Penske that everybody's running around trend setting and getting. So hopefully it works out. I'm still waiting on it though to weigh it. But if that works itself out, hold off on the Penske, bro.
Well, I think I actually need to order soon because they take a while to make too. But
yeah, I'm still waiting.
But yeah, what I'm looking at is the Penske drag shock. I don't need a bunch of adjustability. Like I'm riding on stock. So if I buy the drag shock that's just a dual adjustable, I think, and it doesn't have a reservoir, it's still going to be better than what's on there. And it's $1,100 and it'll be sprung for me, valved, you know, correctly. Like when you give Schnitz all the stuff, the bike info, your info, horsepower, whether you're turbo or nitrous or whatever, they set it up. And they actually, I noticed recently they have a roll race option on the shocks. It's not just a drag shock. So now it's the drag shock meaning it has no reservoir. It only weighs 4 pounds, but then it's also valved and set up for roll racing. So I don't know what the difference would be other than it's not got as much like preload or something like that for when you launch. It's just set up for roll.
No, bro.
It's just the name, bro.
Bro,
you click one or the other, and I think it changes the price. It's like, oh, you're a roll racer? It's $1,200 now.
No.
Racer, it's only $11.
I think it's actually more than that. Isn't it? You talking about that shock that's like $2,500 or something crazy, right?
No. I'm talking the cheap one, man. Like I'll spend money on the titanium.
No.
Purple, but the shock I'm going cheap.
No. I'm talking about the roll race shock. I know what shock you're talking about because I think either DME or HTP had posted it. One of them.
Well, so I don't know a specific one. I know the one shock that I was looking at on Schnitz, right?
Oh, and LaPearl is right.
It's just the Penske. I know it's washed out.
That's the double adjustable one. Looks like
the double adjustable, no reservoir. It's like $1,100.
Yeah.
But
and LaPearl. So I actually bought a
there you go.
An M2
roll race.
That's not bad. $1,095. That's not bad.
So, but
I mean, who was that? Who was that came out with the race on there? That's it.
So who was that came out with that shock that's like $2,500 or something crazy? There was a shock that was circulating on Facebook, and it was expensive. It was like twice the amount of a normal shock.
Ain't no telling.
Well,
that was COVID price.
Yeah, that might be COVID price. The Penske Air Shock is like $1,800, and which I'm gonna have a real hard time not doing this because it's got carbon fiber on it, but it's an air shock, so it's not it's not got a spring. It's just air.
That's nice.
Yeah, so
but it's $1,800, and I'm like,
yeah. I've heard some pros and cons with the whole air shock thing, and I was telling LaPearl. So Marcus in the middle of the night, because I was having some issues setting up my BMW and my project bike, and in the middle of the night, that dude, I was on the phone with him. I think until like 1 o'clock in the morning. Because the problem was the inserts at the top of the shock when you mount it to the top of the frame, like I had to put them backwards and do all of this stuff in order to make the shock work. And so I didn't know that initially, and he kind of walked me through that in the middle of the night, bro. So I was like, right then and there, like I was sold. I was like, yeah, like I don't think Penske's gonna be on the phone with me in the middle of the night. Because I don't know any damn better, you know.
Yeah, like I mean, you get that customer service, you sold. Like I'd be the same way, right?
Yeah. I mean, I got shocks on bikes, but like, nah, bro, like not like that. And I actually have a Penske. I actually have a Penske for my turbo bike, but I don't.
An M2. Stacy runs an M2 on his bike.
Oh, then I definitely can't do that too. And I gotta beat him. I gotta beat him with the other one, so I'll get the Penske.
I think the only downside is they always say, like, you know, the M2 stuff, because that's one of the things I'm dealing with right now, Luke, is the fact that like I'm waiting on something I paid for a while ago, whereas Penske, I probably could order that right now and I probably have it. I would have had it 2 weeks ago. So you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not talking down, you know, but I mean, the M2 is custom and we're working with each other kind of, sort of. So, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of makes sense, but whatever.
I mean,
it all boils down to what you really want. You know what I mean? What's going to work better for you?
I mean, realistically, anything but what's on it. Like,
yeah, you got a $60,000 bike, bro, with a stock shop.
with a $500 shop.
Yeah, bro, like that's the thing is until now nobody knew that, right? But anything you post on the internet, right? Like I don't even claim like I'll post up like oh it's the fastest in the world, but I don't really think that. It's just gonna get the clicks, right?
Right.
But the second I post anything, I posted the 220. Somebody's like, my buddy's faster. I'm like, cool. I don't really care. Like, I'm not saying I'm the fastest. I'm just posting what I got, right? And then I posted 238, and I literally put on the thing, like, quote unquote, I know someone faster. And someone commented, yeah, Billy's GTR. I don't even know who the hell Billy is. But good for him. Like I don't wish no ill upon nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like you think you have the fastest 1,000, all the roll race community, the land speed guy. I don't really care. Like let's go to an event, ride the bikes. Like it
I
is
think
what it is.
that's
Well,
pretty
I
cool
tell you
though for
what.
you to be in the big guy bracket and still be able to run 230. And
Yeah,
those numbers, like, dude, that's right there is just a trophy in its own.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is like y'all were talking the other day, right? Is I'm not the guy putting 20K on a race. I'm the guy that loves to ride my bike.
Right.
Like Streets Cartel was saying, he wants to ride. He doesn't want to just drag bike.
hmm
And I'm the same way. Like I want this bike to look good. I want it to turn heads.
Oh
It's got to be
yeah,
fast. It's got to be fast. But like, I'm not out
man.
here like trying to sign up for a $20,000 race. That's why I don't really hold no secrets on the bike. And like, I'm not gonna talk shit on somebody's bike or anything like that because it's like, Tristan took the radiator off. Hey, cool. Like that's what he did. I'm not gonna judge that. I'm not gonna do it, but I'm not gonna judge it.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
like
my
when I
man.
blew the radiator, Chris said, "Fucking dry block it. Just take all the coolant out, take the radiator off, and run it." He said, "Just do one pass, make sure it cools all the way down." And I was just like, "Nah, I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
home for the weekend. Like I'm good. Like I spent way too much money on the bike and I'm sure it would have been fine, right? Doing that, but like, yeah, it's just I'm just not willing to do that. Like I would rather just call it a weekend, hang out, watch everybody else race, and leave my bike as it is and put a radiator on it for the next one. So
Yeah, because at that point, right now at that point, you're like, oh, all I gotta do is replace the radiator. But what happens, what I'm saying, if you overheat soak it and now you got
yep,
way
You
more
blow
expensive
and blow a
issues.
head gasket or something
Yeah,
crazy.
you got way
yeah,
more expensive issues on your hand. For
yeah,
what?
I,
yeah.
you know, it, so I'm glad you brought up Cartel, man. First of all, like he would have been on probably, but of course, like he had to work tonight and all of this. So I think I said it earlier in the stream earlier, but the other thing is Streak. Hey, his bike is nice. So I
Mm-hmm.
would imagine if his S1000 was against your turbo bike, he probably would like get out there on you fairly quickly, and then you would have to like reel him back in, play Scorpion.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially if he's got any kind of stretch or anything, because that's something that nobody seems to understand when they look at my bike is why it's short. They're like, well, they see the roll race community, and
Right.
most of them have 6, 8 inch stretches on a stock bike, and it's like, yeah, they can like my wife's bike, the double R.
And
I
he was
can't
doing.
just I
Hey,
can't
hold
just put
on.
it in first.
Hey, I gotta interrupt you. I gotta interrupt you,
Oh,
Luke.
really?
Hey P. Hey P,
Yeah,
you saw how political you saw what he did there?
I did.
You saw what he did?
I did,
He
bro.
caught himself.
I did. I did.
Hey, he caught himself.
Hey, I
No, go
wasn't gonna
ahead,
say
Luke.
that. I won't let it slide. I
Yeah,
won't let
yeah.
it
I,
slide,
I ain't
bro.
letting that slide. He was about to say something and he caught himself. Go ahead, Luke. Go ahead,
But
bro. Uh-huh.
anyways,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I see LaPro knows Billy. I don't know who Billy is, but no, but what I mean though is like when you have those 200 horsepower bikes, like my wife's double R, if I get on it in first gear and just pin it, it wheelies. But now if I put a 6 inch stretch on, like some of the roll race guys with the NA bikes, they pin it and it grips and goes. I had 40 psi in this tire and it spun at 60 inches. It spun. Like I had to drop it down to 25 today to get traction. So like even at this wheelbase, it spins. So like imagine, now if I move it out 6 inches, make it a 64, 65, 66 inch bike, I'm never gonna have traction.
Well,
So
you,
it's
well, you probably would have traction if you take that stock ass shock off.
maybe I might,
You
but
know,
but like
we're gonna give you shit from now on, bro. I'm
Hey,
sorry.
well, since
I'm
we taking
ordering it
shots,
tonight then, goddamn.
look, since we taking
but
shots, we not finna flow past this whole little comment you just made talking about you see the guys with the 200 horsepower bikes, and then you go, like my wife's bike. Hold on, bro. What you mean?
if you mean it like that, what I was using is I don't have like
No, no, no.
we all know. Hold on, let me turn the right way. We all know that don't make anywhere near 200. I
No,
can
no,
pin that. I can pin that bike in first gear, stock wheelbase, and it's not coming up.
No,
But that
no.
ZX10 double R got some power at
it
the
does.
200, whatever it is.
Hold on,
It'll
hold
really,
It definitely
on.
does.
What bike you talking about? The Busa?
yeah, that Gen 3, that ain't wheeling in first gear.
Well, I don't know what's wrong with your bike because mine comes up.
Oh,
Mine comes up.
Well, look,
What the
I
hell's
just blame
going
it on being
on?
a booster. I just blame it on being a booster. It's not 14, so no. But no, with that bike, I went out and I ran a BMW, and he was wheeling because he's stock wheelbase.
Gotcha.
He was wheeling left and right, and I could control the
Oh
Gen
yeah.
3. That's the reason why I bring up the double R, and I only say it's my wife's bike because it is. Like, I don't really ride it. She's the badass that rides the double R. But her bike makes so much power that, yeah, at stock wheelbase, it wheelies all the time. It's not lowered, it's not strapped, it's set up for like road racing because she likes corners.
Right.
But yeah, when you
Right.
make 200, like her bike does, or like, a stock motor bike, you put the 6-inch arm on it and you get traction because you don't make too much power. But now you can just pin it in first gear and not wheelie. Whereas, like I tried to do 60 to 130 pulls when I was in Washington on her double R. And I want to say I got a sub 4, but I was fighting, like I was like trying to not wheelie and fighting the wheelies to get it sub 4 second. Whereas if I just put a 6-inch stretch on it, I could just, and it'd probably be, low threes. Which is why they have the string arms.
You would still, it would be a light float though. It wouldn't be, and it would only be like first, second gear.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean though, is like when you see the normal roll race bike, they're stretched, and it's because they can go full on, just snap to 100%. The front floats a little, they shift gears, it pops up and it comes back down.
Yeah.
But if I put an arm on this bike that's the same length, I'll open it up and it'll just spin. Like I literally, if I have too much air pressure, even with a tire warmer at shift sector, if it has too much air pressure, it spins down the airway, the airport. Nice concrete pad, good traction. If there's too much air pressure in, it spins even at 60 inches, even with the extra weight added onto it. Again, you could blame the stock shock, but drop it down to 25 psi, make sure the tire's warm, and it's good to go.
And what kind of tire y'all talking? I asked my wife for a drink. I'm on, so I can't just. I guess I could leave in theory and just make my own drink. But it's getting too good.
If you can get somebody to bring you a drink, like you can't deny that, right? Like
yeah.
If she's gonna be nice and bring you a drink, like get you a drink.
I made her a drink earlier.
If the person was bringing you a drink rode a 200 plus horsepower bike. Oh, wait a minute.
See, that's how I got this Red Bull though.
She does.
I texted my wife and was like, "Hey, I'm playing computer games and can you pick me up a Red Bull?"
Both
so she got me up the Red Bull.
got stuff to answer because I'm not putting my girl on a 200 horsepower bike.
Lower link.
Not doing it.
Pound for pound, I'm running the Brock's. What is it? The Brock's adjustable lowering link.
Oh yeah, I use
for the BMW.
Yeah, I use the same thing on all the bikes. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing is I make sure it's clear that that's my wife's bike because she's a badass. Like, I bought the lowering links, and for the Gen 5 ZX10, they're like $300.
Yeah,
I bought it because I had bought her like a 05 or 06 ZX10, and I slammed it, and she would got back into riding on that, right?
There's Mrs.
Sold it off.
Thank you.
Runs out of the.
You said that's 200 plus horsepower right there. That's how she got out there.
But yeah, no. So I'd done that on the learner bike that I bought her for like $4 or $5 grand or whatever. And then when she bought her double R, I didn't buy it for her. She bought it. She paid it off. That's her bike. That's why I make sure it's her bike. It's nothing against the Roll Racers 200 and it's a female. No, that's because she's a badass and that's her bike.
She definitely.
But I bought her the lowering link immediately, and she's like, "Well, hold on, I want to ride it for a while." She loves corners, so she's like, "I want to ride it for a while without lowering it." And then like a week later, she's like, "You can go ahead and return it." And I was like, "God damn it! It's like a 20% restock fee." Which on a $300 lowering link, I paid probably $40 or whatever plus the shipping to get it back to Brock. If I remember right, he helped me out. I don't even know if he charged me the restock fee, but
he's a good guy. He's good. So
it's just a literal. Her bike is literally factory. Like, I had put a nitrous kit on it at one point, and we never sprayed or did anything. So I sold that nitrous kit a while back because she's just not interested in the same type of riding. Like I've been trying to get her to take one of the bikes and do a shift sector, and she's like, nah, it's too cold. I'll just hang out and watch you. I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to get her on this one here in Abilene, have her hop on the Gen 3 at Abilene, but we'll see, you know. I had her signed up for the old Abilene, the one we didn't make because I was having the issue with this bike. She was signed up and going to ride that one.
Nice.
But they never made it. So.
Hey, I got a question about the shift sector, right? So, okay. Can you elaborate on like the safety equipment or what's required to do a shift sector, just in case like anybody ever will drive to Abilene or wherever it is and attend?
Yeah, so shift sector is a little less stringent than like the Texas Mile, but like you should have safety wire on the things that need to be safety wired. Your pinch bolts in front, your rear axle nuts, your oil drain bolt, things like that. Just for the mere fact that like if one of those backs out going down, they're gonna clean it, but now you've just oiled like your, oil pan breaks. You oiled down the whole track on everybody, right? So I would definitely have like your axles and stuff, your brakes safety wired on, and then you're required a tether. You're required full leathers over the ankle riding boots, gauntlet style gloves, and then like a helmet that. I forget what the certification is, but it's above DOT.
So
and that's basically it.
Like,
so
like road race safety laws, the same as that.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. It's like realistically, I have all that done, so I don't know exactly what shift sector requires. I know they require the tether, so if you fall off, the bike cuts off, right? I think anybody that races knows that. And then you require like the full leathers in the helmet, which is again, anytime you race a bike, you have to have that. But like for me, I'm not going like even if it was just a street bike and I didn't do an event, everything would be safety wired. Just because I'm not trying to go 230 miles an hour and have the nut on the rear axle fall off, and now I have no rear tire at 200 something miles an hour.
Do they require the modification to your chain guard as well?
Not that I'm tracking, no. Basically, when you go to a Texas Mile, your tech is like you pull the bike through, you show them your stuff, and they tech your bike. They like literally look at everything. At shift sector, like your bike's gonna get looked over, but like the first one that I went with Chris, and Jason was like, "Yeah, if Chris says your bike's good to go, it's good to go." Right? I never pulled it through a tech line like at a Texas Mile.
Gotcha.
But if you get caught out there racing and you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, or your bike doesn't pass tech, then you're probably gonna be banned from racing, right? So it's kind of like, hey, your bike's gonna pass tech by getting looked at by whether it be Jason or one of the guys out there. But like I said, for me, I went through with Chris, and he's kind of ipso facto the tech guy for me. And Jason was like, "Oh yeah, if Chris says you're good, then like you're good." And I've not had an issue. So it's definitely less stringent than a Texas Mile. Texas Mile says you have to have front and rear brakes. Shift sector, you don't have to have a rear brake. I think you have to have working brakes, like period. But yeah, like my H2, I kept the rear, like I took the rear brake off the H2 for a while, and then I was like, oh, well, I got to run it in Texas Mile. So I had to re-put it on. But yeah, like Chris said there's no strict safety or tech. So it's like,
okay.
The safety stuff is like what you wear, but you're not going to pull through a tech line, right? But like in my mind, you're going to safety wire the things that could ruin your day if it went wrong, or ruin everybody else's day.
Yeah.
So like your fluids should be safety wired, and then like the things that hold your bike together should be safety wired. But yeah, basically Chris is right. Like, don't bring a PMS bike,
to answer pound for pound, so I heard some rumors about the K67 stuff snapping. I have one on my K67 and it hasn't snapped, but I don't know why yours did. I don't know. Maybe it was installed incorrectly or something. I know, like for the K46s, the window link you got on your bike, Luke. You know what I'm talking about? you know how people, I think longer is shorter and shorter is longer. So people were kind of like the longer the rod, I think it's the lower your bike, or the shorter the rod, the higher. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So what people have been doing is they're just pushing it out way too far and not giving enough thread.
Yep.
So
no, I 100%.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
So that might be something that's going on, but obviously the K67 lowering link is quite different. So I don't know. You might have I don't know, because that's a lot. That's a lot going on back there in the rear suspension. I wish I knew who that was, so I can
Chris, man, you can't be that direct, man. You can't be calling people by PO.
Man, Chris always like that. Hey, you asked Chris, right? You like, yo, Chris, what you think about H2s? He sound like Jeremy, bro.
Oh God,
he sound like Jeremy. He hates
them,
H2s, man.
Hey, bro, Jeremy can't stand them. Jeremy will shut a shop down for him, bro. He was like, I'm going on vacation right now. I'm not touching it.
Well, that's the thing is, like I said, I got into the H2. I got the 2016, the second year it was out, right?
Yeah.
Badass bike. Everybody's like, oh, it's going to be the new thing. Got one. Looked on the internet, saw Chris's video, or it was like 400 plus horsepower H2, right? Looked up where he was, got in contact with him, did both bikes, and then I came to the conclusion the H2 is not for me on my own. And talking to Chris, he's like, "Oh, thank God he got rid of that bike." I'm like, "Yeah." So it's a cool. The H2 is a cool bike, right? Like I ran into a guy in Washington, and he was on a ZX10RR, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my H2 this." I was like, "Yeah, I got one of those at the house," because he's trying to like, "Oh, I got an H2," and it's like, "So do I, dude."
Yeah.
But like, as far as like viable platform, like this bike right here would walk my H2 all day. I'm sure there's H2s out there that'll beat it, but like for me, it's just not the linear power, losing traction, wheelie in. It was fun to ride, but it wasn't really viable for racing.
Well, I mean, do you really think? Okay, so I mean, your bike obviously is powerful and well set up, but like an H2's power is immediate. You know that.
Yeah.
So you're saying that your 14 currently would compete with an H2? Like I don't know.
I think it depends on the race.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, locally here, everybody wants to do 60 to 130. 60 to 130, H2 is going to walk all day. You want to go for a mile, though? I mean, all I got to do is not let you get out far on me. And ain't no H2 running 240. Like, what H2 is running 240?
In a half mile or in a mile?
In a mile.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as long as he doesn't get out on me, I'm there with you. I've seen him run 220 and a half, but that's why I say it depends on the race. If you got to do 60 to 130, H2 all day. 60 to 180, H2. 60 to 240, my bike. It's just, do you want to race for a mile? Do you want to race for a half a mile? Like, if I'm going to one of those roll events and it's a quarter mile track and you're 60, 40 roll, whatever, and it's a quarter mile, that H2 is going to walk this bike all day. It's a quarter mile. Like, the instant power, a well set up H2 is going to walk it all day. But to me, I just think it depends on all the different stuff. Rider weight, right? Am I taking on Chris, the 130-pound guy, or am I taking on Reap, 200+ pound person?
Hey, well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I'm just 200+ pound person, man. Yeah,
man.
Like, are you the same weight as me? So I think if I were to take this out, against a good H2 with a similar weight rider, and we went for a mile. As long as you don't get out on me right away, like, I'm right there with you. It's just in the shorter races, like if you're doing the side by side, like we were talking with Streets Cartel the other day, the old school, hey, we're just riding to get food, and you start revving your engine at the dude next to you, and you go 60 to 130, and H2 is going to walk this bike. Like, the instant power, it's probably going to have a stretch on it, all that kind of stuff. Like, I had a 6-inch stretch on my H2 for a while, and it would eat things alive, 60 to 130, 60 to 160, 180, whatever. But like, I have not seen an H2, and I could be completely wrong. Maybe there's an H2 that's running over 250 mile an hour now. I don't know. All I know is that I've seen them push to the max, and it was over 220 and a half mile and not over 250 in a mile. Right. So I don't know how many of them are built to that level. because at that level, it's a volatile motor. Like it's not going to last. Like I would be really interested to find out if someone's making over 400 on a daily rideable H2, one that's got 5,000 miles on it and it makes over 400 horsepower and he races it. Like I'd have to see it because I've not seen a reliable one make over 400. You know, people will claim it all day, but
I'm glad you brought that up. How reliable do you think the H2 is? Period, hands down. Once you start modifying,
I think the higher you go in power, the less reliable it is. But it's like any bike. It's just in my experience, I've seen an H2 built. I haven't seen all of them clearly, but like I've seen an H2 built, and there are a couple of them out there that I know of that are just they're money. The person who built them is probably one of the world's best builders, and they're still running. I have no clue other than what is said on the internet as to what power they make, what they run, all that, right?
Right.
But like the few that I've watched that were built, trying to make the most horsepower possible, it's just a volatile motor. Like, are you going to lift the head off because you're putting 30 pounds of boost on it? You know, are you going to stretch the fucking head rods or the head studs? You know, so when you look at that, like kind of the way I'm looking at an H2 is yes, it's instant power, but you're probably 3 to 380 horsepower if it's alive after 5,000 miles. I could be completely wrong. You know, maybe someone out there has a 440 horsepower H2 and they ride it daily. I don't know. But I haven't seen it. Like,
well, we're supposed to have at some point, obviously, you know, Super H2 and Mustang Dame and them.
Yep.
And so we was having a conversation the other day about the H2s, and I'm not going to spoil it. So whenever I can get their asses on here, then we'll have an in-depth conversation about it. But I think half mile, though, the way that your bike is set up, I don't know. Well, no, you got to set up a land speed, right? Primarily, kind of.
Well, so, and that's the discussion we had the other day, right? Is I was like, anything over a quarter mile is land speed. But to me, the difference between land speed and drag racing or land speed and roll racing is, am I going for mile an hour or am I going for ET? Land speed is mile an hour, right? And then if I'm racing somebody, it's ET. So, like I posted it on my page the other day, and everybody, even Chris, was like, yeah, anything over a quarter mile is land speed. But it's like, if I go against an H2 at a shift sector and I run 220 or 210 and the H2 runs 206, but he beats me to the line, land speed, I won. Roll racing, I lost. So, like, yeah, this bike is set up for land speed, right? It's set up to go as fast as possible, but it's not set up like I'm not, you know, rolling in first gear, fucking using a two-step and using rolling anti-lag and just throwing the clutch and getting a sub 2 second 60 to 130. Like that, it's not going to do that. All it's going to do is flip. So that's what I mean is like, there's H2s out there that'll beat it for sure. It just, I think it depends on the race. You know, like if someone with, like if Super H2 was like, yo, I'll bet you $5,000 I can beat you in a half-mile race, I'd be like, nah, I'm good. Like, you probably could. You probably could. You know, like, I don't think this is the fastest bike on the planet. I don't think I'm unbeatable. Like I said, I'm not putting thousands of dollars on a race.
Right.
You know, now if one of those guys wants to come out to a shift sector and we can run it and find out, right? Like, I would absolutely run an H2 or whoever shows it to a shift sector. Like, I'll run it and we'll find out, you know.
But you just said it was based upon mile per hour. So at a shift sector, technically, I could line up next to you. We could race, but then the winner of our race would still be the higher mile per hour. Not ET.
So
see what I mean? Like how does that work?
So for shift sector, it's mile per hour based, meaning at the end of the day, when Jason hands out little things that says you won first place, it's based on mile an hour. But if we want to run something separate, you come to shift sector Abilene in October, and you and me want to put $100 on a race, and we say it's ET, not mile per hour. And we line up and race, and we see who crosses the line first, right? And
okay,
then,
so it's still a race.
That's the winner of our race because it's still side by side.
Okay,
but as far as the shift sector, meaning you took first place that shift sector, it's based on mile an hour.
Okay. I got
So,
you.
and that's what I think Chris wanted to try and set up, but I think he's tried it so many times now, and we just never get enough people, is to do an actual, like, we set up a 200-foot roll in, you hit the line at 40, whatever mile an hour, side by side, and you roll, race, and go, and it's ET. And then you get eliminated from that bracket, which is completely run by the riders. Like Jason's not running that. That would be run by like Chris or you or I or whoever. Like, hey, I just raced this person. I ET'd faster. They're out. At which point, an H2, I think in a half mile definitely could beat my bike. Like I'm mile per hour high, but if an H2 has a stretch and they get good traction, then an H2 is gonna eat the turbo bike all day, right? It just kind of depends on the setups, right? Like if my goal was no H2 ever is going to beat me, like I would probably knock the swing arm back a little while, figure out what would work for suspension and tire setups. And like I'd be really going for, hey, how can I roll at 40 mile an hour, throw on fucking two-step, throw the clutch, and have the bike just launch, right? And to kind of do what, what's his name? Cross built. I don't know if he's two-stepping or whatever, but when he launched racing Chris Moore, they went. I didn't see any like, oh, it's got to spool the turbo or anything like that. So if you're going for something like that, I think the bike could be built. But as it sits, I think in H2, you could definitely beat it. It just depends on what H2, what rider, how it's set up, and what the race is. In a mile, I don't know. In a half mile, probably the H2. Anything less is definitely the H2. Like, I wouldn't go fucking line up in Miami and race a half a mile against Super H2 and be like, oh, I'm going to beat you. Like, no. Like, that H2 is probably beating me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I make a lot of horsepower. It's a fast bike. But, like, that's just not me. But that's why I don't know if I could ever get into grudge racing, because grudge racing is like, fuck you, I'm faster. And, I'm going to bet you $10,000. Like, that's not me, even personality wise. Like, if I race anybody, it's like, hey, let's find out what happens. If you want to put $100 on it, put $100 on it, cool, whatever. But like, I don't have anybody out there where it's like, I'm faster than you, and ain't nothing you could do about it. Like, I'll say in El Paso, there's nobody faster than me because ain't nothing fast out here. Everybody's slow. But like, as far as the country and like, oh, do I think I could beat this bike or that bike? I have no idea. I'd have to run it to find out. Because you can compare your draggy data. Oh, well, my bike 60 to 130s in 2.1 seconds. It's like that's cool, but like that's all optimal conditions. That's not you hitting at the same time as someone else. That's you going down the highway, setting up perfectly and waiting and like, okay, right now. Whereas when you're racing somebody, it's like, okay, I'm going 40. Are they going 40? Oh, I got to go 42 to catch up. Now, okay, slow down. It's all that, and then you're going, so it's not as controlled.
Right.
So like, I could go out and get draggy data and see someone's H2 draggy data and be like, oh, well, mine's faster than an H2, or the H2 is faster than mine. But those are all like optimal condition. Like, no one's posting their draggy data if it's not a good number. Like, no one's like, oh, I rode home from work, I did a 60 to 130, it's still doing this. They're going out there, they're finding the perfect road where it's absolutely perfectly set up. They're getting settled in, tucked just right, and setting the bike up and doing the best that they possibly can. That's what they're posting on the internet. It's just like anything else,
Right.
There's only a few people around. Like, I posted the 220 and I posted the 238. And like, if I wanted to be the guy that's like, oh, I got the fastest ever, and I really believe that, and I really wanted to talk shit on people, like I wouldn't post none of that. And I would just keep nugging at the bike until it's, 250 plus in a mile. And then I would just talk shit and hide all my data. But like, that's why I don't hide anything. It's because I'm not really into like, oh, well, fuck that guy, I can beat him. It's, I don't know. Let's run them and find out, put a little bit of money on it if you want to make it worth it. But I'm just not the guy who's like, oh, 10 grand, meet you in Miami. I'm faster than you are. Because for me, right, I built the whole bike other than the motor and the tuning. So if I'm a shop owner, then I'm like, yeah, my work is better than your work. But I just paid for the bike. So like anything that I do, it just means Chris built a better bike. It doesn't mean that I did the shit. So like, I understand when a shop
Facts,
owner is
facts.
like, screw you, I'm faster or whatever. But like, I didn't build the motor. I didn't tune the bike. So anything my bike beats is because of Chris. It's not because of the fucking purple bolts I put on it.
Right.
So
Well,
that's
hold
like
on, hold on. It might a little bit of it though,
a little bit,
a little bit.
but that's why I'm not really like that. Where I'm not like, yo, I'm faster than you, and I know it. I'll bet you this much money because it's like, well, I didn't build or tune the motor or like I put the wheels on and I put the carbon fiber. I made it look good.
Bro,
But
you
like
3D
Chris
print, bro.
built the motor, Chris tuned it, Chris looks at the data logs and tells me what's going on. I have an idea like of what's going on looking at the data log, but I'm overall I'm not the one that makes the bike what it is. That's Chris. So for me to be out there and be like, screw you, I'm faster than you, it's like, screw you, Chris built a faster bike than you built.
Let me tell you something, man.
It's like I didn't build the motor.
Okay, this is so Chris was on earlier today, and hopefully this gets back to 60 foot, man. And Brett is cool too, because I've spoken to him offline. But we're talking about some drag race stuff too. But anyways, all right, this is gonna be a shout out to Chris and Brett. I want 20 bikes in the fucking hit, and I'm gonna sit beside y'all one day. One day, bro. I don't care. I'm telling y'all, when my projects are dialed in, I'll sit beside them.
You say that till Chris show up with 2 fucking 60 shots on each side of the bike.
Hey, I might show up with 3. Now hey, you know how I roll.
No,
I
I
got
think,
I think
everybody can. I think everybody can agree. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you grudge racing, road racing, drag racing. Consistency is the thing. Like you can beat your chest all day and be like, I ran a 6 second this, or I ran a 200 this, or I beat 17 other fucking people. It always comes down to what you did the race that you lining up for.
Yeah.
Because anything can happen. You can spin, the bike can shut off, you can have a fucking engine malfunction, like anything can happen. So it's a crapshoot with any race you do. It's just with grudge racing, I feel like it's a bigger crapshoot because these guys are pushing their bike past the limit of what they're supposed to do. You know what I mean? So they're the guys that's going out there and saying, "Hey, I built this engine for one pass. Hopefully, it makes it."
one pass. Did you hear what he said, Luke?
I'm just saying.
Can you imagine building your bike for one pass?
Nope.
How much money do you have to have, bro, to build a bike for one pass?
If I had that much money, I'd just have a twin turbo Lamborghini. built for more than one pass.
One pass, bro. Like that's with a $40,000 like purse or something crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they race for that much money.
You put in your bike. You gonna put all this money on top of that.
Well, I mean, that's
what they do.
Yeah, that's why they race for that much money, right? And that's
crazy, man.
That's why like
the road race community is slowly. It's a very strong. It's a small percentage of it, but the road race community is leaning towards that. Look at these top road race guys. Look at how their bikes are starting to look. They're not looking like bikes anymore.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, like in Miami or wherever the hell, Texas, wherever these races are going on at, yes. But bruh, I just
show up with a full bike, and you got somebody else show up with a frame and a motor.
No, bro.
Yeah, that's where I agree with Cartel, man. Like, it's cool. You got the fastest bike ever. It holds half a gallon of fuel, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's just I'm not into that, right? And like this motor, this build, this bike, since putting the turbo on and tuning it, well, after I blew the motor and built it, it's got like 5,000 miles on it. Like it's not a I only ride it half a mile at a time when I do pulls. Like I rode it all over the place in Washington and never raced it once for the 3 years I was there. So like it's got 4,000 or 5,000 miles since the motor was built, and it still pulls like it does.
Luke, somebody says, why didn't you supercharge it instead of just putting the turbo on it? Pound for pound said that.
So why not supercharge? I'm not aware of a supercharger kit for these bikes. But from my experience with the H2, the supercharger is immediate power. but it's also very linear power, which means when you get up to the top of your RPM range, you're either wheeling or spinning, which is why, like I said, the H2 is a great platform. Well, not platform, it's a great bike, but in my opinion, not a great platform depending on what you want to do racing, because you have to have everything dialed in to either not wheelie or not spin. Because when you start and you get that jump, it's either wheeling or spinning when it gets to 30 psi, because it's such a linear scale, because your RPM dictates what power you're at. So whereas like a turbo, my turbo bike, like if this bike I go out and do a run and it wheelies a little bit in third gear at 7,000 RPM, okay, just turn the boost down at that point. If I hit my ramp and the bike starts to go crazy, like I want to start the ramp in second gear, but I can't do it because it lifts, I just adjust the ramp. Right. So like with a turbo, you can put the power where you want it. With a supercharger, it's just if you're at 4,000 RPM, you're at 7 pounds. If you're at 10,000 RPM, you're at 25 pounds. Like there is no adjusting that.
Can superchargers be pushed to the limits of a turbo? I don't think so, right? Like there's 30, 40 psi.
I think you could if you could build a motor that holds it. But at the same point, again, once you start getting up to those high RPMs, like I've got a video of Chris, and I don't know how much boost that bike was running, but the H2 is literally just it was just burning out for a half a mile. I have the video with the audio and everything, and it's just like Jesus. Like the bike wasn't like super long or anything crazy. It was just when it got up into the RPMs, it had so much torque and so much power, it just burned the tire for a half a mile.
Which is crazy that it didn't hook, because if it
did,
now you know what I mean? Now it's a different race. It's a whole different scenario.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like if that bike would have hooked, it would have been an incredible mile per hour. But like I literally have the video, and it's just like when I talk about horsepower on motorcycles and I want to show somebody what horsepower is, that's the video I pull up. I'm like, yo, listen to this. Because you can only see him. The video is from the start line. You only see him for like 5 seconds. But then when you listen to it, as he's getting a quarter mile and a half mile away, you still just see what, and it's just, you can just hear it losing traction the whole way. So in my opinion, supercharging, you can't adjust it as much as you can a turbo. That's in my opinion, probably why you don't see any supercharged, grudge drag bikes or anything like that. It's all turbo, because you can adjust everything on a turbo. You can adjust where it comes in, how hard it gets in. You can get a smaller turbo for lower end power. You can get a bigger turbo for upper end power. You can control everything on it as compared to a supercharger. It's just, if you're at this RPM, you're at that much boost.
But I've never even heard of anybody trying to control a supercharger, to be honest with you. I mean, think about it. Why? That's the whole purpose of a supercharger, is to have instant power. You want all your power to give to you at once.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically that's why the H2, like I said, if it's depending on the race, it would beat this, because it is that instant power. It's that takeoff. It's the launch that you get down low with the supercharger that the turbo doesn't do. Right. So it does have that, but up top, you're talking, your power curve is just linear. So again, while you're taking off, you get the grip right off the bat. If your bike's too short, it wheelies. If it's too long, it spins, or you have to short shift or something like that. Like I know this bike I can take out, and I've got it set up now to where all I do is set my ass back in the seat, tuck down, put my finger on the high beam switch, and go. Ramps on,
nice,
and just wait. I don't do nothing else. Like I don't have to worry about it wheeling and spinning. None of that.
What do you feel about anti-lag, man? Like what's your, like, do you feel like anti-lag changed the game for the turbos?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's still in production mode of trying to get it dialed in?
No, I mean, I think anti-lag, I think, has been around a while, right? It's used in cars more than bikes. I mean, any gear I pull the clutch in and pin it, it starts the two-step. So that's rolling anti-lag as far as I understand it. Again, I'm not a mechanic, but like a two-step, if you can do it while you're moving and you can do it in any gear, it's anti-lag. But I think dialing it in on the bikes is where people are doing the work. because when you rolling anti-lag an all-wheel drive Lamborghini, you're just building boost, or like a Supra, you know, that is going to get good traction. You're not going to wheelie a Supra. I mean, you could, but you're not going to wheelie a Supra rolling anti-lag at 80 miles an hour. But now this bike, if I were to just pull the clutch in at 80 miles an hour and pin it and then throw the clutch out, it's gonna flip. Like, so, you know, you'd have to dial that in, and part of that rolling anti-lag would be dialing in your suspension, your wheelbase, you know, put your weight transfer distribution. Like, my bike's got a lot of weight right over the tire in order to get traction, and it's got a little weight up front to keep it down. But I mean, I think like that would be a huge change up in the roll race community, would be when people start dialing in that rolling anti-lag and they're just spot on money. And I mean, there's probably people that have, like, Brett's bike is probably as perfectly set up as you can make a motorcycle. So I would imagine he's got that dialed in. But yeah, I think it's gonna be crazy.
I got one last question, because we have reached our threshold of over 2 hours. On your turbo bike, what is your tire of choice?
So I use the Q5s. Used to run a Michelin, but I run the Q5s on this bike. I don't have anything against any other tires. It's just Q5 is what I run, because when I have a question and I'm like, hey, what do you run? And I look at who's fast, and I just make a choice. And if it works for me, it works for me. And that's kind of how I got to the Q5. Like, I ran the Q4s, but before the Q4s, I ran the Power RSs on the H2, and they worked fine too. So, yeah, I run Q5s, but it's not because of anything special. It's just I asked people. They said, hey, I run a Q5, so I put it on the bike, and it's worked.
Well, I guess I asked you that just because I have a Drag Max, right, for my turbo build. But I bought this Drag Max, like, remember like when they came out, they're like, oh, look at this awesome tire. Yeah, well, I bought it then. I still have the same fucking tire. You know why? Because my turbo is still not here. And I'm just like, bro, like, they're gonna be on the Q7 by the time my damn bike is up, bro. And I don't want to fucking pay for another bike, like another tire, bro. Like, I don't want to do that. So for now, it's on Drag Max status until I burn that out or something, because I'm not paying for another tire. But I wanted to see what you thought, because you got a fast bike.
Yeah, so the Drag Max, it may hook better because it's got a bigger contact patch. But for the type of racing that I do, it's also got a lower peak, meaning the outer diameter is smaller, right? So I gained like 2 or 3 mile an hour switching from a 190/55 to a 255.
Really?
So for land speed, I run the 255. Now, if I ran a 190/55, the mile per hour would be a little lower. And then if you go down to a Drag Max, I would assume it'd get even lower. I've never done it because I don't have a Drag Max, but you have a bigger contact patch, so you might be able to get better traction if traction is an issue. Like if you were to set up a rolling anti-lag, it may work better. But overall, yeah, I switched from a 190/55 to a 255, going from Q4s to Q5s, and literally no changes to the bike. I ran 205, 206 in Abilene, and then I ran a 207 in Hondo, and the only difference was the tire and the hole in my radiator. Like,
yeah. I started using the Pirelli track days instead of. I'm trying Q5s now, and I have a Q4 on my K67. But so far, the Pirelli TDs, which is the direct competitor to the Q4 Q5s, they're on my H2, and they hook, they hold. So
yeah,
I wanted to go back with that tire, but it was just too much work, and I didn't feel like spending the money for it either.
Yeah, I don't make enough power to be even worried about that.
That's why I say I don't have nothing against the other tires. Like, that tire is probably great, but in my experience, Pirellis are damn expensive, and I ain't trying to spend that much money.
Hell, Q5s are expensive. I had to buy 2 sets recently for our track bikes, because I had slicks on my track bike, but which were Pirelli. But I'm like, bro, like, I'm tired of buying these expensive tires, but I can't get to the track as much as I want.
Yeah.
You know? Just like you're trying to get to shift sector or land speed or whatever as much as you want. So,
yeah.
But
He
yeah,
says in
man,
October.
that's what he said. October. It sounds like a
So
good deal. How much it
I
cost?
know.
so Hondo is coming up in April, and then there's like I only go to the two in Texas. I wanted to go to the other ones, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make them. But Hondo is April, and then Abilene is October. It's
Okay,
$300 for the first day, or $550 for both days.
550 for both. Okay, yeah, he said
Yep,
that at the
That's
beginning.
that's just, yeah.
yep. So
I mean, we
yeah,
might have to
you
do
get a
we might
cool
have to make a trip.
T-shirt. If you go over 200, you get another cool T-shirt.
I don't own, bro. Like I was so upset I didn't get my 200 mph T-shirt, man.
Well,
And
look,
it's
hold on. Look at it like this though. The power you had then versus the power you have now is night and day.
yeah.
Is night and day.
Now this is
So I'm not
assuming
saying
though.
that you're gonna go out there and burn up 200 miles an hour. I'm just saying you're gonna do better than what you did the last time.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, but I mean,
So
this
I
isn't.
mean,
But this isn't 2030 either. My projects take a while, so I guess I don't think I'm gonna have it up by October. I don't know though. My motors are done, so I don't know. We'll see. Because I definitely want to. Because me and Luke have been talking about this for a while. Hell, I was supposed to race you, Luke, on your wife on that ZX10.
mhm.
I just never got it right. Because what am I going to race? I keep giving my
Blas-
bikes away.
blasphemy. I better not see neither one of y'all on the ZX10. I'm calling the cops.
Oh, nah, I was
That's
gonna.
what I said about him sitting on the Honda the other day. He posted a picture on the Honda. I know Streets Cartel took it as something on his Honda, and I was like, nah, I don't even mean that one. I mean the picture of your big ass on that little tiny ass triple R.
Hey man, I love 1000s, but like
They're
um
tiny.
right now, yeah, I rode the Beamer earlier and I went to sit on the boost and I'm like, man, it's just crazy how big the bike is, night and day.
Yeah, but you
Oh
get
yeah.
used to it, man. It's so much comfortable than getting on the 1000s now are the size of fucking 600s. Like,
Oh, at least old 600s at a minimum. You're
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're right.
You know what I mean? So like now when you look at 1000, you actually have to look at them now. Back in the day, you used to look at it and be, oh yeah, that's 1K. That's 1K.
You could tell the
Now you
difference
look,
now.
yeah, now
Yeah.
you look at them, you have to like look for little things on them, like, okay, yeah, that's 1K. Because they
Yeah,
Yeah.
look
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
600s.
Yeah.
No, I think your goal of hitting 200 just depends on who you got helping you. Like everything I've done, whether it be with this bike with the H2, going 200 at Texas Mile, going 200 at Shift Sector, it's all Chris and Shane and Brett saying, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that. Like I'm not coming to any magical conclusions myself, right? It's just I'm going to the events with the correct people, and those people are freaking awesome. And they're like, hey, try this. Like Texas
Bro.
Mile, I went like 210. They were
No.
like, yo, try to put some duct tape over the seams on the H2. Duct tape over 214. So
Dang.
it's like bringing those correct people or having the correct people at the events, going to the events that they're going to, will help you get to those goals. Because
Man, no.
I'll do something on this bike at a shift sector, and Chris will be like, "Oh, do just this little thing different," and then I'll run faster. And it's like, oh,
Well, you know what? We did actually have someone, like I said, Jeremy from CMP. Like he's an
mhm.
avid, land speed type dude. But
Mhm.
instead, you know what he would tell me to do? How about I try to tape my damn stomach because I'm too big? That's what he tried to do, bro. There ain't no damn taping no seam on no damn bike gonna make me go faster, bro. I'm just too heavy. My shoulders is poked out and doing too much. I saw my pictures, bro. So that's it.
Yeah.
So ain't no taping up no seams, bro. But I like what you did there, Luke.
No,
That's why we
like
say
I
you're a
said,
kid
you
in my
just got to
car
get
like I
different
help.
perspectives.
Yeah,
Nah,
You just got to
man.
get different perspectives on it, man. Because
it's a
I'm the
different
same
world,
way.
man. It's a
Like,
different world. I've done the road race with them. I've done the land speed with them. I've done the roll racing with them, the drag racing. Like it's even though they all kind of have some of the primary of each other, it's so different. Like the worlds are so different, man.
yeah,
It's so different. The skill
I think
set is
they're very
different.
similar though. I think they're similar,
I
honestly.
mean, the only similarities that they have, I'm gonna be honest with you. Each one of them takes a certain skill set, and each one of them has a motorcycle. That's the only similarities that they have in them, honestly.
Nah, but Luke said earlier, and he hit the nail on the head to me. Like, I think every single one of those facets are like road races. It's just they start off differently. Think about it. Drag racing. After the 60-foot, you road racing, bro.
Yeah, but you got to get past that 60-foot.
Land speed, you're going from a dig, that's dig racing, but eventually it's going to turn into you just going through some gears in a straight line.
Yeah, but again, you still got to get to that.
I'm not saying that I'm all for road racing. I'm just saying like each one has different, you know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I said, they all sell some similarities, but at the end of the day, once you get into the actual competition style of it, it's different. You're not going to take a road racer and bring them out there and go against a grudge racer on the drag strip and line them up. Two totally different people.
Okay, I keep saying because it's 2 hours. Okay, Luke, I got one more question. No. I got one more. Okay, because this is going to be universal. I'm going to ask everybody this. What is, I know what your current point is with your bike. What is for 2024, your goals? What is your goals for your bikes?
Number one, get a rear shock.
All right, man. Yeah, that's a good goal to have.
Like overall, 2024, hopefully I'll make it to more events this year than I did last year, right? Hopefully I'll run better speeds than before. And like the overall goal for the bike is just to make it as fast as possible. Like I look at Brett's bike, the Truth, and I'm like, man, I want to build that. But I want to just go.
What is the Truth? What is this bike you talking about? You keep bringing it up.
That is the bike that in Miami, Chris posted the video and no one would race it. It's the video. It's where Brett and T&E made the video with the Island Boys talking shit and like people back out. Big money.
Okay. The 250 or whatever Chris ran that day off the trailer or something to that effect.
Yeah, like the 250 off the trailer 1 mile bike that ran 230 something and a half a mile, like that. That's like the goal, right? Like I want to have a bike that's like that, to where it's like, oh no, like I'm good, Because like right now, if I was just like, oh shit, I'm the fastest ever, somebody with an H2 is gonna come prove me wrong. Yeah, I don't think no H2 keeping up with that bike. That Busa is insane.
That's that Thanos glove.
Yeah.
Have you ever? I've never seen the bike in person, only videos. Have you ever raced it? Not raced it, but like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Been in the same vicinity as it on the streets. Like you're on your bike.
So no, not on the streets. Back in like 2019, I want to say it was the same bike that Brett rode up the Texas Mile, but I don't know. It might be a completely different bike. It's definitely not the same setup, probably. You know what I mean?
Oh, so Brett rides the bike then?
Well, it's Brett's bike, but at least as far as I understand, it's Brett's bike. But it just depends on probably the race, right? Like that's kind of what I want to do, right? And I don't even know if he would be down for it. I didn't even talk to him about it, but Brett's my size, right? So what does that bike do with Brett on it, and how close could I get this bike eventually? Right now, this bike's nowhere near that, right? Like I'm over 10 mile an hour slower, let alone, ETing faster. But the stuff we've seen, the videos we've seen is Chris on the bike, and we know what it does with him on it. Right. Like I have, like this bike will never, with me on it, be that fast. But like the overall goal, my 2030 project, to match up with your bikes, is for this bike and Brett's bike with me and Brett on it to be able to race, and it's just like I'm nowhere near there. That's why I haven't even talked to him about it or tried, is because like this bike's nowhere near that bike. I've got so much more work to do before I would even like think about doing that. But like, that's like I said, I'm just not the big money, like, as far as I know, that bike don't come out unless there's big money on the line, and that's just not me. So,
that's too much.
But I don't know of anybody that's raced them, because from what I'm tracking from the Island Boys videos, they had a big race locked in and people were backing out, and T&E and Brett and all them hired the Island Boys to make a video talking shit, and we can look it up. If you haven't seen it, look it up. They post it.
Yeah, I saw the video. I saw it, bro.
Like that's overall though. The end goal is to make this bike the same like as feared as that bike, right? Where I don't have people being like, oh, Billy's GTR is faster. I want people to be like, oh no, I'm not racing that.
Yeah.
Because this
But
bike
then
previously had been
doesn't it take the
234
fun
with
out
Chris
of it?
on it. What do you mean? Like when nobody wants to race?
Yeah, it's like then what do you do then?
I'll still go race it. I'll still go to shift
Who you
sectors.
gonna
I'll still
race?
go to the Texas Mile.
Oh, okay. I'm
You know
like,
what I'm
who
saying?
you
Like,
gonna race then?
well, that's the thing. I don't really do the street. I probably will never go to a Miami or any of that stuff. I don't do the street stuff. I will if I'm riding around town, but like I'm not gonna ever go to a place where it's like, oh shit, the cops are coming. Let me stand in the trailer and hold my bike while the dude drives the truck away. Like, I'm too old for that shit. And I'm not knocking anybody that does it. It's just I'm not that guy.
He did it. He did it. That's twice now, right?
Yeah.
I'm just not that guy. Like I'm not willing to go out and do all that, right? So like that's why a ton of people are probably going to be faster than me, and that's why I don't really go on the internet and be like, I'm faster than you, because when they say, hey, come out to Miami and race me, then it's like I don't really want to do that. Like I would rather just go to a shift sector or a Texas Mile, and I prefer the shift sector, even though it's only a half a mile, because it's side by side. So like, you come to Hondo in April, we can line up side by side and we can run it as many times as you want. Whereas Texas Mile is solo lane, so you're just running for a mile an hour. But yeah, like overall, man, I'm just down to race and find out what it can do. I'm sure there's bikes out there faster. Definitely some H2s. Brett's Busa would leave a half a mile gap on me probably. But like that's the goal, is to get a bike that's that badass, right? Like,
right.
I don't know exactly what the record is anymore, but when I first started building this bike, I found the fastest Texas Mile slip that I could find on a ZX14, and at the time it was 247. But I want to say Chris has even beat that. But like that's
count. He don't count.
Yeah. The thing is if Chris go 249 on a bike and he's the fastest in the world, and I could just build this bike to put him on it and do the same thing but be faster, then yeah, Chris is still the fastest in the world, but I own the fastest ZX14. I own it. Right. He built it, he wrote it, but like I still own it, So it's like that to me would be cool. Like I do agree. I do want to be the one racing. I do want to be the one riding it. That's why I say like I would want to take on Brett on a bike, not Chris, because I know Chris is gonna walk me. He weighs 100 pounds less.
No, he won't. Actually, he won't. Just tell him meet. Hey, he starts at the water box. He started the half mile mark.
Yeah, it's the 20 lengths in the hit, right?
Exactly.
We'll both be good if we just do that.
Yeah, and he'll probably still run you back down though. Like Chris is fast. I know that. Like he probably
know he's a living cheat code, bro. Like that's why I say he don't count.
Like anybody that with that skill level and then that small, like but
he just don't count. Man.
But I do agree, man. Like I wouldn't mind sitting beside Brett at some point in life, but because shit, even you, like I wouldn't mind like racing you either.
Yeah.
I'm not rich, so ain't no fucking way I'm racing anybody for any thousands of dollars, but I mean, still for the love and passion of the game, like I wouldn't mind doing it.
I'm not.
Yeah, like I said, that's where I'm at. Is like I'm not willing to be like I'm faster than you and talk shit because I'm not the big better. So I'll race anybody. We'll find out who's faster. You know what I'm saying? But like I'm not gonna talk shit on somebody's bike and then be like I could fucking beat you, because then they're gonna be like, okay, let's put 10K on it. It's like I don't want to bet 10K. Like if I wanted to bet 10K, I'd just go to the casino and play blackjack. I got a better chance of winning that.
All right, so I'm gonna show your IG real quick.
Yo,
there we go.
All right, Luke, man, we gonna lock it in, man. Me against you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so
40
this is
40 to 80. 40 to 80.
Yep.
I got you.
So whenever y'all get a chance, man, check out his IG and then check out his YouTube channel, which I should have pulled that up, but I don't have your YouTube.
Dang, you ain't even subscribed? I'm subscribed to you.
No. I mean, no, I'm subscribed, but what is your YouTube called real quick, so I don't have to like go to my subscriptions?
Boosted 14R. It's all the same.
The same thing.
Yep. I rebranded everything to be the same because that's what I put my LLC as for like my custom 3D printed parts, some carbon fiber parts, laser engraving, Pro Bolt dealer. You know, hopefully you'll get some other stuff so that people can just text me and be like, "This is what I want," and I got you. It'll be, give me an address. It'll be at your house in a week or whatever.
And then everyone here, this is his YouTube.
Yeah.
So go on there, man, like and subscribe and all of this good stuff. He has some good he's got money on there. Oh yeah. You end up did you sell that? No.
What?
That KTM. Or did you build that? Oh, genetic. Yeah. Cameron, I see Cameron is in the building as well. So at some point, Cameron's going to be on here also. And I'm saving some of my controversial people because he's definitely controversial. Tell it how it is. So I'm saving that for like let's get decent at this, and then we'll get the controversial people on here. You know.
Yeah.
At that point, my cup gonna be bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have my cup full when he get on here, man. But Luke, I definitely appreciate it. You got anything else for anybody watching?
Yeah, you know, you're talking about this AGM stuff. I got a code now with them for 5% off. So it's not a lot, but if you buy anything AGM, use the code boosted14R and it'll save you 5%. So, you know, all that stuff that fits perfectly. Like I said, I've never modified it. It's all minty, fucking nice carbon fiber. You can get at least 5% off.
And then, of course, you're a dealer for Pro Bolt, so.
Yep. Working on everything else, but Pro Bolt for now.
Okay, so yeah. So if y'all want that titanium, man, to drop some weight off y'all's bike, hit them up. I'm gonna hit them up. I just got to figure out what else I need because I spent my money and now I found out he's a dealer. So there we have it.
I swear I told you a month ago when I got it.
Nah, bro, you ain't telling me, bro. You just started posting pictures of everything purple. You didn't tell me anything. You always posted purple.
I'm pretty sure the pinned post on my IG is a picture of Pro Bolt purple titanium, and it says I'm now officially a dealer.
Yeah, it is. It is. I wasn't gonna say that, but it is.
I literally thought I hit you up on the side and was like, "Hey, I'm a dealer now."
No, you didn't, bro. But I know now, so it's all good. But
it's cool.
everybody
race him 40 to 80, and when I win, he got to buy my kit.
40 to 80.
40 to 80.
Let's do an 80 to 40. I think I got a better chance at that one. I got them Behringers, man. I go 80 to 40.
I swear he just confused me. I was like, how the hell do you do 80 to 40? I was trying to think of it for a second, like, but yeah, man. And then shout out to my boy, man. He's not on tonight because he had to work. I just got to say that once again. But
yes, sir. Street Cartel, what's good?
I think we got Will Heat or somebody Friday. There's like I want to let everybody know while Luke is on, and I really appreciate him coming on. There's like a long list of just random, not random, but random. There's so many people, and I'm pretty sure this is not the first time or the last time Luke's going to be on this. Like,
oh no,
I'm sure he's gonna there's gonna be more. So just stay tuned, and we will have Cameron on eventually. You gotta love what he's gonna have to say, right?
I mean,
you gotta get the human cheat code on here, Chris.
Yeah, you can get Chris on too.
Eventually,
somebody's gonna be offended by something I said, trying to be. They said my bike's a woman's bike or whatever. They're gonna be mad, and I'm gonna have to come on and squash that whole thing.
Defend yourself, yeah.
Defend it, even though it was like, it's not really what I mean. But all right.
I know because I got 10 and I was offended.
I don't know though, man. I think Chris would be an awesome because he's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. Chris is smart as hell.
Yeah. And I do, and it's funny because I do actually have some builders and tuners that I've spoken to that will eventually like be on the show, but I'm waiting again to make sure that I know what I got going on before I invite them on. So, but I wonder if he would do it though. I'm gonna send him a message, like, and see if at least he's willing to do it.
Yeah.
And then if he's willing to do it, then once it makes sense, he picks the topic, and then he can just talk to his heart's content. And then I'll sit here and be quiet and learn the entire time. Because that's how I do. I learn. Anyways, chat, we appreciate you all watching, and just like and share and make sure that you buy something from Luke. Support the hustle. I'm gonna buy some. I'm buying bolts. So
I win.
Support the hustle. You said you doing what? Oh yeah,
yeah.
And then most definitely this Friday, there's someone else, but I don't know what we're doing yet. So thank you all, and I'm gonna end the stream in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Peace, y'all.